Okay, good afternoon, everyone. The Board of Zoning Appeals is now in session for its regularly scheduled meeting of March 6, 2025. I'm Joey Hargis, the Metro Zoning Administrator, and I'll be presenting the cases to the board for review in today's public hearing. The board would appreciate if you would please silence or put your cell phones on vibrate so that we don't interrupt today's proceedings. We'll go through all the cases set on today's agenda. This agenda is a little bit different in that there are items that would have been heard on February the 20th, but for our snow event on that day. So those cases can be found under our old business section in the agenda. Cases listed there will be in case number order, and we'll take them in the order in which they're listed here. The board will go through all cases set for public hearing today, and then after each case, the board will vote, discuss, and then vote on your case. The board's vested to act on the powers as outlined in section 1740-180 of the Metro Code of Law. The code requires that 4 members be present to constitute a quorum. I should have all 7 members here shortly, but we have 6 currently. So we do have a quorum. You will need 4 affirmative votes in your favor of your request for case to be granted. Again, we should have all 7 members present today. Process will be, I'll go first for the Codes Department. I'll call the case, ask if the applicant is present, if there's opposition present. The answers to those 2 questions determine how much time both the applicant and opposition have to address the board. You'll come forward to the table. It's directly in front of the board members here. There are four chairs, 4 microphones. Feel free to push the button to the to the bottom of on the right-hand side of the microphone stand, and you'll see a little symbol. Looks like a human shoulders and head figure there. Your microphone will turn red if you're looking at me. You can see how my microphone's doing. Once it's red, if you'll give your name and address, and then present your testimony to the board. The clock will start after your introduction, and it will stop for any questions or answers to the board's questions that they may have from you. Once you're back into testimony, we'll start the time back. The time allotted for cases with opposition, each side of a case will have 10 minutes to present. Now, a reminder, that is 10 minutes per side, not per speaker. So if you have multiple speakers, please, before coming up, divide your time accordingly. The applicants of your 10 minutes, you will have a period for rebuttal to address concerns raised by opposition, and you will want to save some of your 10 minutes that's allotted to you at the beginning. Again, the board will go through all cases set for public hearing today and then vote and discuss on the cases in front of you. The board does allow elected officials to address the board. Their addressing is considered part of the public hearing. If there are any elected officials present, if you would please raise your hand so I can identify you. Councilman Cash, did you want to address the board? Yeah, Nash, excuse me, you're right. We do have a Councilman Cash also, but Councilman Nash, I apologize. Would you like to address the board at this time? Yeah, feel free. You're welcome to come to the table or the podium here.
All right, there we go. Thank you, Bob Nash, council member for District 27. Thank you for letting me have a moment. The folks at St. Verina's Coptic Church invited community and myself to a meeting last week to let us kind of observe what they were wanting to do and planning on, and I think they have a great plan. No one else showed up because they're such good neighbors, and they're really it's a good property for what they're trying to do. It's buffered on all sides with trees, and I think the beauty the building they've got planned is very beautiful. So I would like to be in favor of it, please, and thank you for all you do.
All right. Thank you, Councilmember. Are there any other elected officials present? Okay, seeing none, we'll proceed then with our consent agenda. The Board of Zoning Appeals has a consent agenda prior to today's meeting. The chairman reviews the cases on our agenda and reviews the record, and if in his opinion testimony would not alter the material facts and the applicant has demonstrated that they meet the criteria for the request that they've made, he recommends the cases for consent to the other board members. I'll now call those cases recommended for consent. If you are here in opposition to any of the case numbers that I'm about to call, and just opposition, not applicants, opposition only, if you'll raise your hand, please, we'll remove the case from the consent agenda and hear it in its order as printed in the agenda. The first case recommended for the consent agenda is case 2025-011. That is at the middle of page 3. Miss Elizabeth Batigi, and owner of the property located at 2640 Delk Avenue, requesting a variance in the street setbacks to construct an addition. Are there any parties present in opposition to case 11? Mr. Chairman, the record reflect there seeing no hands. The next case recommended for the consent agenda is case 2025-12. Colin Spindle, the appellant and owner of the property at 1709 23rd Avenue North, requesting a variance in the side setbacks in the RS5 district. Are there any parties present in opposition to case 12 at the bottom of page 3? Okay, Mr. Chairman, seeing none. The next case recommended for consent is on page 4, and it is at the bottom of page 4, case 2025-016, Miss Sarah Dorsey, appellant owner of the property at 604 Hume Street, requesting a variance from the fence requirements in R6A. Are there any parties present in opposition to the request on Hume? Mr. Chairman, seeing none. The next case recommended for the consent agenda is on page 5. This is the middle of page 5. Indeed, this is the case Councilmember Nash was just speaking about. Case 2025-018, St. Verena Coptic Orthodox Church at 5240 Edmondson Pike, requesting a special exception in the R8 district. Is there any parties present in opposition to case 18? Mr. Chairman, record reflects seeing none. The next case recommended for the consent agenda is at the bottom of page 6. Mr. Keith Ridley, the appellant owner of the property at 610A Hume Street, requesting a variance in street setbacks height requirements in the R6 district for a fence. Are there any parties present in opposition to case 22? Mr. Chairman, seeing none. And then finally, the last cases on consent, case 2000, and this is on page 7 at the end of our agenda, case 2025-023. Christopher Ott, the appellant owner of the property at 606 Hume Street, requesting variance for the fence requirements in R6. Are there any parties present in opposition to case 23? Okay, seeing none. And then final case recommended for consent, case 2025-24, Mr. Ryland Aceby, appellant Adam Loeffler and Philip Ray Loeffler, the owners at 2130 Gain Street, requesting a special exception to construct a two-family dwelling. Are there any parties in opposition to case 24 on Gain Street? Mr. Chairman, seeing none, and for the members of the public and the record, let me recap our consent agenda. The items listed for consent are cases 2025-11, 2025-12, 2025-16, 2025-18, 2025-22, 2025-23, and 24.
I'll move that we adopt the consent agenda as presented.
Is there a second?
Second.
There's a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, that consent agenda passes.
Okay, for those here present, if you are one of the cases that I just called out, your case has been approved by this board. You're free to follow up with the Codes Administration beginning this coming Monday to proceed with your building permits. Mr. Chairman, as those parties depart, I do have some preliminary announcements on some other cases listed on our agenda. And the first of those cases on our agenda is at the top of page 2, case 2024-246, Rigoberta Cam at 111 Margaret Street. This case was originally heard on December 5th and deferred from the January 16th hearing. I think that was deferred before it got here. The board directed the applicant to obtain a survey of the property. The applicant did obtain a survey, and I'm pleased to report that the construction that's built does comply with the code, so I withdrew this case on case 2024-246. So if by chance you are here for the case on Margaret Street, that case has been withdrawn, will not be heard today, and the gentleman will need to finish up his building permit, but he does not need an appeal as his proposed addition complies with the code. And let's see. Additionally, I've got on page 5, members, the top of page 5, case 2025-17 for St. Mary's Coptic Orthodox Church in Nashville. That case is being postponed. We will set a later date for that, but that will be heard. We'll be sure to get notices out. Likely, members be back in front of you in April. That's case 17 will be postponed until April. And then finally, I know it's listed on page 6, but I'll cover it anyway. Case 2025-20 at the top of page 6, Mr. Fosner at 1309 McChesney Avenue was requesting a special exception. The applicant withdrew his case prior to today's meeting, so that case will not be heard. All right, members, and
What did you say about case 20, sorry?
what was that, sir? Your question?
What did you say about case 20?
Case 20 was withdrawn by the applicant. Okay, our first case of today, and I'll have to recap events because there's some quorum questions I'll have to ask first about the case, but it's our case on, page 1, front of the agenda. Ms. Beverly Boswell is the appellant and owner of the property located at 8926 Highway 100, and Ms. Boswell was requesting variances from street setbacks in RS40, seeking to construct a tiny house and a carport and detached utility building referred to the board under section 1712030B. The applicant alleged jurisdiction under 1740-180 item B. And this case was originally deferred from November the 7th. Ms. Boswell was instructed to obtain a survey. She has provided a copy of the survey. I also have a hard copy present here that I'll pass around to you. But before we get there, members, we had only 4 members present at that November meeting. So the following members, I'll need to poll you to see if you've watched the testimony of that date, and if so, if you wish to participate. So the following members were absent from the prior meeting. The first of those being which is Ms. Davis. Ms. Davis, you were not present for that meeting. Have you watched any of the testimony? And if so, do you wish to participate in this case? Okay, let the record reflect that Ms. Davis will not be participating in this case. Ms. Johnson, you were not present at that hearing. Again, same question. Have you watched the testimony from the prior case, and do you wish to participate in this case?
I do.
You did watch, Ms. Johnson? Okay. Will you be participating in this case?
Yes,
Okay.
I will.
Ms. Johnson listed as affirmative, so we will add Ms. Johnson to the record. And then Mr. Ransom, you were not present then. Have you watched the prior recordings, and will you be participating in this case?
Unfortunately, no. I have not watched all of them.
Okay, in the case, this case, so Ms. Johnson will be added to this case. There will be 5 members participating in this case. Ms. Davis, Mr. Ransom will not be participating. Members, I reviewed the order from this case, and let me pull up the PowerPoint first. Members, if you'll recall from that hearing, you did hear significant testimony. The public hearing was not ended by the board at that hearing. It was remain open, so Ms. Boswell can obtain the survey. And I will be passing along to Ms. Jenkins here to pass along to you guys the hard copy of the survey. But I'll ask you, I guess, from a procedural matter, whether you wish to, or how much time you wish to allot to both sides in the upcoming testimony.
Is there opposition?
I'd imagine, yeah.
Yeah,
there's
there
probably-
was opposition present initially, and there's opposition present today.
Okay,
Can you raise your hands again if you're in opposition? Okay, so there's two opposition.
5 minutes aside?
I'm fine with that. I mean, we have a long docket. I didn't find it particularly complicated, so I'm fine. What's it?
I would shorten because we heard significant.
That's true.
Amount last time.
Yeah, I mean, I'm fine with 3 minutes aside.
Why don't we compromise and go with 4? I know how hard it is to say anything in 3 minutes, really, so
Perfect.
let's just go with 4 if that works. Okay. So 4 minutes aside, and then, Mr. Hart, is the survey where it's being passed around, is that the same one that was in our package? It's just a hard copy?
I believe so. The applicant can clarify if anything's changed. I think the surveyor either bolded the text for Zone X on that, where you showed the floodplain area. But I'll be happy to let the applicant cover that when she comes forward. I appreciate you asking me these questions and stalling so I could get the clock fixed. All right. I'll go back over the case and the photographs for the 5 members that will be participating in this case. Again, subject property is the triangular shaped property that you see in red on the map. And from the aerial photograph, I believe this particular aerial was taken a couple years ago. And then a copy of the floodplain information from the GIS, Metro's GIS. I would defer to the floodplain information listed on the survey provided by the surveyor, as it's considered the most accurate set that's there. And then this is the original site plan submitted. I'll bring up the revised plan that was submitted here in just a moment. But just a view of the subject site when I visited back in October. I did not reshoot photographs for today's meeting. Let me pull up the survey. And I'll slide that onto the screen here in just a moment. So I'll leave that survey up on the screen, but to sort of recap for the members, the variance before you deals with the street setback, not from old Harding, but from highway, from current Harding on the south side of the property. And you see in the, here my cursor, that this is where the encroachments are occurring back at the rear of the property. Okay, members, with that, I'll call forward the applicant in this case, Ms. Boswell, if you'll come forward. have a seat at our table there and turn your microphone on and identify yourself and make your presentation. Just a reminder, Ms. Boswell, you'll have 4 minutes in total to present to the board. You may wish to save a portion of that for rebuttal of applicants that'll come after you.
My name is Beverly Boswell. I live at 145 Northwind Drive, Madison, Mississippi, 39110. I own the property at 8926 Highway 100, Nashville, Tennessee. I am applying for the variance so that
You need to start the clock, I believe. Yeah.
so that I can build a residence, so that I can have enough space to build a presentable home. I have obtained another survey from Randy Chapelain, and I also had David McGill he's Director of Pre-Construction with Stellane Eloyne Builders, help me. And I think I have a very presentable plan now. And I would like to see if I can get this variance. And I now have everything to show y'all of the neighborhood so you can see for yourself. It's not $1 million neighborhood, as Mr. Harris said. And I have everything for you to see that I didn't have before because I didn't know what I was up against with the neighbors. So if you'd like to see that, I have it. And I have everything you asked for.
Any questions for the applicant? Okay. If you don't have anything else, you can reserve your time for rebuttal. You've got.
Okay, I would build more if I could, but I didn't know, I mean,
think
I'm
you've
doing
given
the
us
best I can with what I've got.
As I remember, you've given us what we asked for, which we asked for a survey, so.
Yes,
Ma'am, just to confirm, as I looking on the survey, the only variance that's needed is with respect to the portions of the shed and the
right.
carport that are encroaching.
I was wanting the 40 feet from the old Harding Pike and 20 from from Highway 100. I was wanting 60. That's the direction I was wanting it from. And I'm about 200 feet from the stop sign, and the other end, the stop sign's about 160 feet from where the other people live. So I'm not as close to the stop sign as they had believed.
And the encroaching portion of this backs up to the road and not to
Yes.
any other property.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, as Ms. Boswell departs, we'll hear from those parties opposed to the case. Again, just a reminder, you'll have 4 minutes between you two to present to the board. And the privilege of rebuttal is Ms. Boswell's.
Yes, so, oh, I'm sorry, I'm Kim Higdon, 8290 Linton Lane. And now that we appreciate that she's changed the position of the home, and on that note, it looks like she does not need that variance from Linton Lane anymore. So we would like that to be totally eliminated. Like, since she doesn't need that, then let's do away with that request. For now. I mean, do I have to finish talking or? No. Okay.
Tim Higdon, 8290 Linton Lane, was formerly Old Harding Pike. And I agree with my wife. The only issue I would say, if I looked at the original application, it didn't make a reference, if I'm not mistaken, to Highway 100. We don't object to that, but I don't know how the people from Highway 100 would object. You could look at the paperwork filed on the original application. I really don't remember seeing any issue with Highway 100 listed, but that's pretty much where we stand on that. We don't have a lot of objections from the Litton Lane side. That's what we were objecting to the most, but.
Right, so we believe that this variance shouldn't be accepted because she no longer needs it. And
Yeah,
that
we
was the whole
definitely do
point.
not want to see a variance on Litton Lane. Thank you.
Thank y'all.
Thank you.
Okay, well, ma'am, do you have anything to add, or?
Yes,
Okay, if you'll need to come up.
How long do I have? How long do I
You've got, I
have?
think, 2 minutes and 46 seconds.
How long?
2 minutes and 46 seconds.
Okay, well, I want to show you some things. First, can you see this? Okay, this is Cameron Getty's home. He stated in the last meeting that he was concerned in maintaining the continuity of the neighborhood by disrupting the character of existing neighborhood properties. Furthermore, he expressed concern in the safety by granting me the right-of-way variance on the distance to the road on Old Harding Pike, which is now the Linton Lane. Well, he is about 6 feet. His building and his fence is about 6 feet from the road. And he's also only about 160 feet from the stop sign. And as you can see, everything's dilapidated. Now, here are the Hildens, Kims, who just spoke. And they have a cyclone fence around the entire perimeter of their home. I don't know if that's in violation or not, because there is it's 25 feet of the public right-of-way, is where it's supposed to be. Her chain link fence is only 14 feet from the street. And she is also 160 feet from the stop sign. My property is 200 feet from the stop sign. And she's concerned about all this that I'm doing, and yet she's done worse. I do need the right-of-way, and it just really bothers me that they're not looking at their own properties and taking care of them. This is Miss Emery who spoke. Again, not $1 million property with a shed in front of her home. If all the neighbors would just spend half as much time maintaining their properties as they are concerned about my land, the neighborhood would be greatly improved. Sean Harris, he's an anomaly. He bought land, he built a big home, he sold 2 or 3 pieces of his property for big homes. And that's the only home he showed when he was here. This is next door to my property and across the street from Mr. Harris. This is also behind, and Mr. Harris sees that.
Ma'am, you're out of time. I'm going to ask you, does anybody have any questions from the applicant? Okay, we'll take a look at that.
Okay, I'm just
If you
going to
wanna
give you
pass those up,
these.
we'll take a
They're
look at
all
those.
less than a mile from our properties that you have to see every day when you pull out to go to Nashville.
All right, thank you. We're going to close the public hearing and discuss.
And I do need the variance, thank you.
Thank you. All right, public hearing is closed. Discussion.
Can we not discuss again?
No, ma'am. The opposition does not get a chance for rebuttal.
So it sounds like she's asking for a 20-foot variance from her property line, which is well far away from Highway 100.
Right, yeah.
So I'm looking at just graphically where the edge of the carport sits. It's a little beyond that 20 feet. It's maybe at 27 feet away from the property line, but I think maybe a 25-foot variance or even the 20 might be fine because it's so far away from the road. So I was just gonna.
And you're saying that based on your measurement, she's asking for 30?
No, she was asking for 20, but on her drawing, it's closer to 30 feet from her property line. But the property line's so far away from the road, I
Right.
don't think that that's gonna matter that much, a couple
Okay.
feet. So I think a 20-foot variance from the property line is fine.
Okay.
And it's an odd-shaped lot.
Yeah, I mean, I think the floodplain and the shape are sort of pretty clear hardships.
Agree. And I appreciate appellant bringing a survey as the body requested, and it makes crystal clear front setback is met, and then back setback, because of the unique shape of this property, which is 40 foot from the property line, but it has additional minimum of 60 feet from the highway 100. So I think it meets hardship, so I'm comfortable granting the variance.
Okay, I agree with all that. I think there's a hardship with the floodplain and the shape of the lot. So I'll make a motion that we, based on those hardships, we approve the application.
A second.
There's a motion, a second. Any further
Can we
discussion?
just say it's a 20-foot setback from the property line? Because I don't feel like that was really clear in the paperwork, that that's what she was asking. It's not on this drawing.
So, yeah, I'm glad to amend it, that there's the building is allowed a 20-foot setback.
From the property
From the
line that's
property line.
against Highway 100.
Okay, I'll amend it
Which way, I'm sorry?
from Highway 100.
And then what about from, do I get 40 from Old Harding?
I don't believe you need one from Lytton.
You're granting what she's showing you on the survey, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
So what you're requesting complies with the site plan, Ms. Carpenter, is that right?
Yeah, what I
Okay.
mentioned would comply with this site plan here. And as the zoning administrator said, she didn't need one from
Right,
Old Harding
right.
Pike.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so I'll amend my motion accordingly. Is the second still there? Okay, so we have a motion, a second. Any further discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? Okay, I believe did we get 4 votes? I didn't look at it.
Yeah, 5.
5 votes, okay, we got 5 votes. Okay, so that application passes.
Okay, case 243 on page 1 is approved on a vote of 5 and 0. With condition that the variance approved is the survey that was submitted by the applicant. Okay. All right, Mr. Chairman, the next case 2024-255. This case was deferred from the meeting of 12/19/24 and let's see, 2/6/24. It was supposed to be deferred till 2/20. We had the snowstorm, so they're here today. But before we get into the meeting itself, I've got a couple items we need to address first. First, like we did in the last hearing, because it will be germane to the next portion, the following board members were not present at the 2/6 hearing, so I'll need to poll you. First on the list is Mr. Cole. Mr. Cole, did you review the record in this case? And if so, do you wish to participate?
I did not.
All right, Mr. Cole will be marked as not participating. All right, second, Mr. Pepper, you were not present at 2/6. Have you reviewed the case in this, record in this case? And do you wish to? Okay. Mr. Pepper will be shown as not participating. And then finally, Mr. Ransom, have you, you're shaking your head in the negative. If I can get you on record, please, will you be? Okay. All right, so the remaining board members eligible to participate in this case will be Ms. Karpanek, Mr. Bradford, Ms. Davis, Ms. Johnson. Before we begin, the applicant, this case was postponed, directing the applicant to obtain a survey to determine whether the fence was in right-of-way or not. That survey has come back. That fence is in the right-of-way. So I'm asking from a procedural question whether, that the members that will be participating in this case wish to hear the case. It is my belief that this board lacks jurisdiction for it. It is also Metro Legal's belief that this case lacks jurisdiction. The applicant's attorney disagrees, so I obviously give him the ability to make his case that you have the right to hear this case. But the reason I say you don't have this case, this fence sits in the city right of way. And this board cannot grant variances that are in public property. So, but first we got to dispense of the procedural. If you agree with the applicant's lawyer, then we'll proceed with the case. But we'll need a motion one way or the other.
Move that we provide the applicant's counsel with 3 minutes to present.
Okay. All right, sir, if you'll come forward, and we're just addressing jurisdiction on this piece.
I don't know if we voted on that.
Oh, I don't think we voted on that.
I guess I could vote for it, but I don't know about anyone else.
Voted on which piece, to
Well,
allow the 3
He
minutes?
made a motion to allow him 3 minutes, but we didn't vote.
Okay, let's do that. So, motion to allow 3 minutes. Do we have a second?
I'll second to see what this discussion is.
Okay. I really shouldn't be conducting the,
Yeah, I'm out because.
Who's the
do
vice
it.
chair?
She's
I was
the vice chair, so yeah.
Okay, so, sorry for, I was wondering who was gonna do. Okay, so we have a motion and a second to give the applicant 3 minutes. Any discussion on the motion?
I would go because we do not have a jurisdiction if it's in a right of way. So I'm in.
We
Not
can even
agree.
limit it to 1 minute, but I think if we can ask the applicant's counsel on the record to state whether it's,
1 minute's fine.
we can give them 1 minute. But basically, I want to get the applicant's counsel on record if it's in the right of way, and then if they say that it is, then it is, and if not, then, he can explain to us why we would be able to hear it.
Okay. So you amend the motion
Yeah, to 2 minutes.
to 2 minutes, okay. Any other discussion? And I'll second the amended motion. Any other discussion on the motion? All in favor, say aye.
All right.
Joseph, you don't agree?
He's out.
Oh,
There's
who
only
was
four.
on?
There's only 4 of us that are participating on this. Yeah.
I'm forgetting who. Okay, but if we're good, I'll go with that.
Okay, I've provided, my name is Lance Baker. I'm the attorney for Mr. Quintian Wang, who is the applicant for the variance. We came here previously, and if you'll remember, the board decided they wanted Mr. Wang to procure a survey. We have procured a survey. I've provided it to Mr. Hargis. I'd asked him to pull that up on the screen, Mr. Hargis, and I have a hard copy that I can pass around. I would simply state, I understand the jurisdictional issue and the jurisdictional argument. All I would say in response is that Mr. Wang has made an application. The application was processed. He came before the board previously. And so you've exercised jurisdiction at least up until that point. And I believe that as a matter of due process, constitutionally required due process, that you should at least take a vote. And I understand that what the likely outcome will be is a denial of his variance if there is a vote, because the fence, as the survey shows, it is within what is labeled as dedication, road dedication, not right-of-way, which is probably, or maybe, could be argued to be as synonymous. But nevertheless, my client would like the board to make a decision today, just as a matter of due process. So that's what I'm asking you to do. And just as a point of privilege at the very last second, I'd just like to say hello to the chair, someone, I was a 1L when he was a 2L about 34 years ago. I think the last time maybe we talked was we were both having a beer before a UT football game.
I think I remember that. Good to see you again.
So it's good to see you,
Good to see you.
Mr. Pepper.
Counselor, I have not, sitting here, received that. I know your client emailed it over to me. It hasn't come through yet.
Okay.
Now, that may not be any fault of your
Hard
clients,
copy
it may
get
be
passed
the,
around?
yes, sir, the hard copy's going around, just for the record purposes.
And-
Our Wi-Fi in here is spotty
And
at
if
best.
the board does decide to at least take a vote and hear the case, then, I may have further argument, but I understand the position of Metro, but our position is that the board should, as a matter of constitutional due process, take a vote on the substantive application for a variance.
Thank you. Is there any questions before you leave? No? Okay, we'll
Thank
close
you.
the hearing. Discussion?
I appreciate council's effort, but if the board has not been vested by law with the authority to do something, then the board can't. Arguably, the last application that was before us for a fence that was in the right of way was not something we could have acted on. Any action the board would have taken on that at that time or now would be in excess of our authority. I will say that if we move to dismiss the appeal, move to dismiss the application for lack of jurisdiction, that doesn't prevent the applicant from refiling, asserting the same grounds for a fence that does comply, that's within the right of way, just that could be exactly the same if he wants to submit this from an affirmative standpoint, so.
Do you want to make a motion unless there's other comments?
Sure, I'll move that we dismiss this, for lack of jurisdiction.
I'll second. Any discussion on the motion? Okay, all in favor, raise your hand. Okay, I see you all now. Thanks. 4 in favor, none opposed.
Okay, members, let's see, our next case, let me pull that up, because I apologize, I was helping Ms. Boswell with her drawing. So I reminded you at our February 6th agenda, I'm a huge James Bond fan, and since this is case 007, it's been a tradition of mine in this role to use the graphic that you see here, so please don't hold that against either the applicant or the opposition. That's my own quirk. But this next case was heard at our February 6th hearing. In Arian Goda is the appellant, National Quality Homes LLC, for the properties located at 1818 Ashton Avenue. That's A and B. They were requesting a variance from the side setback requirements in the R10 district. And this was referred to the board under section 1712-040. If you'll give me 1 second, I need to look. I think like our prior cases, I will have the same questions for a few of our members here. Let me. Let's see. If you will allow me to steal this back from you. Okay, this was deferred at the February 6th hearing to this agenda, and again, I'll call for the following members who are not present to poll you. The first of which being Mr. Cole. Mr. Cole, have you had a chance to watch the record in this case? And if so, would you like to participate?
I have not.
All right, record reflect Mr. Cole will not be participating. Mr. Pepper, same question to you, sir.
Well, I'll say I had the chance, but it totally slipped my mind that I need to go back and watch these from February 6th.
That's quite all
I
right.
did not watch it, so I apologize.
That's all right. And Mr. Ransom.
Unfortunately, I did not watch these. When I read all these were deferred, I made the incorrect assumption that there was a case.
Got it.
That's what
that day, actually, I didn't know that there was a case on it, so I didn't really need to watch.
No problems. No, that's quite all right. All right, with that, we'll have 4 members participating in this case. We did have a public hearing in the case. The members participating will be Ms. Carpenter, Mr. Bradford, Ms. Johnson, Ms. Davis. I will recap the photos and slides that were presented at the prior testimony. All right, this is, there's a 2-unit HPR duplex that's been constructed on this lot. The variance request is along the left, you'll see in the next photograph, it'll be the structure on the left that needs the variance. That's along this property boundary. And I'll zoom in briefly to give you a dimension there. They have 4.3 feet. 5 is required, and then they're over by half a foot at the rear of the structure. Let me turn off. This subject property that you see located here, and that variance is along the property boundary with the blue home on the far left of the photograph. Again, another view of that site, and a photo of me fighting the sun in the bottom right-hand photograph. But that variance, again, along this common property boundary here. Members, I reviewed, you did allow the public hearing to remain open, and you all need, I guess, like our first case, decide how much time do we wish to give each side, and if so.
My recollection was that we'd asked them to come back with some additional potential stormwater runoff mitigation.
That is correct, yes, sir.
Okay. 4 minutes, do we want to do the 4-minute rule again? 3 minutes?
4? Okay.
Yeah.
Everyone agree with 4?
Yeah, I'll move, we give them 4 minutes per
Okay.
side.
Second, and looks like everyone agrees, so we'll go with 4.
Turn my mic back on. With that, if the applicant in this case would come forward. Good, gentlemen. Again, there's 3 of y'all coming. You'll have 4 minutes to divide amongst you, and then you may want to save a portion of your 4 minutes for rebuttal of opposition testimony. I know I have 2 ladies in the front row. Are there any other parties present opposed to this case besides these 2 ladies? Okay. Thank you. All right, gentlemen, if you would please, your time will begin after your introduction.
Good afternoon, Chairman and members of the board. I've been contacted by elite developers to come present this case to you guys. We did, in fact, go through the process of installing a very detailed underground drainage system. That's been documented by the long-term maintenance plan, the LTMP, and the DRC. Both of those are notarized. They've been approved. Stormwater came out, they inspected it. So as we know, this has been approved to what the standards are, the regulations of stormwater, and we have eliminated any drainage issues.
Okay, when did you install the system? Was it since the last meeting?
It's since the last meeting. It was actually inspected within the last week or last week and a half by stormwater.
Is when it was inspected?
Yes.
Okay, and we've had some significant rains, I think.
I'm sorry?
Sorry, my voice is not clear today. I believe we've had some significant rains in the past couple of weeks. Do you have the date of installation?
We have.
Yeah. Do you have the date of installation handy?
No, I don't. Okay. I can get them.
Yeah, that would be helpful if you could find the date.
Okay, when it was installed?
Of when it was installed.
Two weeks.
Ms. Ladd,
2
is that
weeks
something
ago.
we could
Two
look up?
weeks
Then February 20th.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Do you have anything else to add?
Unless you have any questions.
See if the board members have questions.
Yes, I think at the last meeting, we discussed mitigate stormwater runoff to next door neighbor, and which is consult with a professional. That would be stormwater mitigation or landscape or both. So you said additional stormwater mitigation was installed after the meeting?
Yes, ma'am.
Any discussion with the landscaping?
We can still put some landscaping in if it's needed. We don't,
But you put in basically a French drain system, or?
we put a French drain in the front and the back both.
Okay.
Thank you.
Nope. I don't think anybody has, no other questions.
No other questions? Then you have some time for rebuttal after the
Okay, thank
opposition. You can go ahead and come up now.
All right, ladies.
Hi, I'm Cheryl Cheese. I own the property adjoining to this property, 1820 Ashton Avenue. A French drain was never put in. I'm home all day. What they put in these properties, they hooked the drain to the gutter. That's a gutter drain. That's not a French drain. I'm home. I watched them. As far as my property, I just took this picture 3 days ago. They haven't done anything. What they're doing, they're working in between all them houses, not in between the blue house where we got the problem at. They put trees up over in between these houses that has nothing to do with my property. That's the problem. My property. The water's coming on my property. Do you see what I'm saying? They put gutter drains. It's totally different. A gutter drain and a French drain is two different things. When you hook a gutter drain up, they're hooking that pipe to that gutter under the ground, to the gutter. That's not a French drain.
My name is Joni Cheeves. I'm co-owner of 1820 Ashton Avenue. The gutter drain she's referring to is just a black drain that they stuck in the ground and put dirt over top. A French drain, you gotta have rock, gravel, you've gotta have the pipe that has all the little hose in it, more rock and dirt on top. That is not what they put in. They only connected the gutters to the drain system, and it's not all the way back because it is actually flooding our front yard and the backyard. It's already damaging
The unit.
our AC unit. It's damaging in that. It's damaging our foundation. And we did discuss last time about putting trees and stuff up. Well, no, I don't want trees up beside my house because that is where our water pipes run. The roots are going to grow into our water pipes. That's going to cause us more problems in the long run. And our house, the front yard was completely flooded due to all the rain.
If there was if there was a French drain, because I'm hearing if there was a French drain that had to
would
be
not have
required,
If it was a French drain, all of this water shouldn't have happened and all of this damage. There's not a French drain.
Okay. Do you think a French drain would a French drain?
At this point, I don't know.
I don't think so. I don't think so
I
because.
do. I have a lawsuit now for this situation. I have been filed a lawsuit. I've got to go back in the morning over this issue because it has become a legal issue. This gentleman who was just talking, I've never seen him.
Don't know him.
I've never seen this man in a day of my life. As the ones before, the last meeting, who's not back now talking, I never seen them either.
Well, the guy that sat over there.
I've only talked to Mr. Gata.
Yeah.
I've talked to him. And since this last meeting, he has not tried to talk to me to work this out or anything. I don't understand the problem. All I've asked you to do was fix the issue. Now I'm getting more and more water. I don't care if you can build 100 homes. I don't care. It has nothing to do with me. You're affecting my property. That's the problem. I'm not here because of your houses. You affected my property. Now I've got water coming underneath my house, which is going to cause mold. My unit's messing up. It's got water standing under it. I thought he would be a nice person and work with me. Evidently not, because he's not being truthful to you at all.
No. We actually had someone to check into some of this issue that we have, and this is what was emailed to us about the property next door to ours.
It's been 3 doubles.
It's supposed to have been 3 doubles, not 2 singles, then a double, then 2 more singles. It was supposed to have been 3 doubles is how we understood that, but according to the way that they were built, they're a double, single, then a double. And the way I understood it from the email, that the fire marshal never did approve. I don't know, but saying from the email stating that the fire marshal never approved this second
As
change
close
of
as it
plans.
is to my home, if that catches on fire, my home's on fire. As close as it is to my house. I mean, the overhanging, it's ridiculous. I told them from day one, you're building too close, you're building too close. We fix it, we fix it. That's all I ever heard. When you tore my mailbox down, we fix it, we fix it.
It's never
It's still
got
never
fixed.
fixed. When you ripped my siding off, made 3 big holes up my weatherhead 3 times, we fix it, we fix it. It's never been fixed. I mean, you can build these $1 million homes, but you can't fix what you mess up of mine. That's not right. So I don't oppose of this. I think it's wrong. I do not think the side view, it needs to be set back. It's not, you didn't build it right, you knew you didn't build it right. I kept, you're 4.3 from the property line. That affects my property. I don't think it's fair, I don't think it's right.
Thank you. Thank you both.
I have a question, a codes question. There's a minimum distance 2 homes need to be from each other. Is that 6 feet?
6 feet between the homes themselves, yes, ma'am.
Okay, and so what I'm seeing on this survey is that the home that's in question is built, I guess I can't read it very well. Is it 4'6" from the setback, but that would mean it's more than, that's not from their home, that's just from
That
the
is not from
setback.
their home. That's from the common property boundary.
Okay, thank you.
Members, up on the screen in front of you now is, was in front of you. Let me try again. This screen here, the gentleman that prior testified as far as an inspection, this is the grading inspection tied to this permit, and it shows a sign off on, I can't read that date, I apologize. I don't have any. 2/26 of this year.
Joey, would that be where the French drains would fall under if they were required to put them in?
It should be, yes. So what you see here is a little bit different, just to give you an idea. I know y'all don't do this every day like I do, but in some developments in the single-family world, stormwater requires a grading permit. This is the grading permit, as you'll notice where my cursor's moving now. Those are the 2 homes that were built that are associated with this grading permit. So the grading permit inspections occur on the grading permit, obviously, and not if you click on the individual home permits themselves, you'll see a line item that remains open for stormwater inspection.
That said 18A, we're talking about 18B.
I understand, ma'am. Both of those see this line item for stormwater sign off. Once they'll eventually put that sign off there, but both of those 2 homes are tied to the A and the B. Here's B coming up here. And there's B, unit B.
I know not in this case, but can I ask a question related to stormwater or?
And again, this is probably a question for Ms. Carpenick. How much space is required to put a French drain in on the property?
Yeah, I would have to defer to a civil engineer on that.
Okay,
I don't think it's that much space,
okay.
but I don't design those.
I think the issue in here is stormwater by metro regulation.
Yeah.
So it you should not disperse the water prior to the construction, and which does not do anything to next door neighbors or, entire area. So if it's the meet before and after an engineer calculation, it meet the requirement. That's how our stormwater works. But unfortunately, because of the construction, oftentimes, in reality, we see, actual water runoff to the neighbors. So which is a difficulty we are facing all the time.
That the problem can exist even if you,
We still have 16 seconds on the public hearing. Do we have any questions for the opposition?
appreciate y'all's
Thank you.
presentation.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. We'll close the public hearing now.
Do we need to bring the rebuttal?
Yes, that's true. Thank you. And can you remind me, did you give us your address earlier?
My address is 2541 Miami Avenue.
Okay, and tell us your name just one more time.
My name is Mike Murdoch.
Thank you.
I'm sorry. In response to the drainage, the French drain systems that are installed are per regulation. They're not just black drainage pipes. They do have gravel over the top. They were inspected by Metro Water and Sewer. Steve Mishu actually has been in contact with us directly. He has the pictures where we actually installed these systems. We have the aggregate over the top, and they were installed specifically for the length, depth, for these each residence per the plan. Additionally, they're uphill from us. The grading plan on the site plan that was submitted, that was approved, shows their house is a higher elevation, natural grade, than what the houses that were built by at least about a foot. They appear very equal, but by way of a surveyor's registered survey, the natural grade slopes from their house down to our house. So additionally, what we've done, and we'll make sure that it's still there, we'll make sure that there's a little low flow swell between the houses to make sure that there is no water that can go to the opposite property. We'll make sure that the property is graded in such a way that it drains away from them at all times.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Just making sure, any other questions before they leave? Okay, now we'll close the public hearing.
No questions?
Thank you.
No questions?
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
So the matter at us was really just a 6-inch variance?
I think it was 7 inches basically. I think it was 4.3
Okay.
was the as-built. There was some question if it was 4.5, if it was 4.5 versus 4.3. So,
Any thoughts on that?
yeah, I mean, the testimony is that, I think Ms. Johnson made a really, really good point earlier about how, you can follow every single regulation to a T and still have issues. And, that's kind of an unfortunate reality of living near new construction. And that I don't think that you can require somebody to go beyond whatever the regulations are from a stormwater standpoint. Unless there's some demonstrable issue. We've heard testimony, I think, that there's water impact. We've also heard testimony that the neighboring home is of a higher elevation than the one that is seeking the variance. So.
No, that's wrong.
So, ma'am, I'm sorry, the public meeting's closed. But, this is also so exceptionally close that, go ahead.
No, I'll wait till you finish.
I'm just sputtering at this point, so save me, please.
I know that we have the testimony of the applicant that said that it was higher, but when he was talking, I looked at the picture that they provided, and the picture doesn't show that. The picture shows that the property at issue is actually up higher, and there is like a slight hill that then kind of dips down in their property. I'm not saying that they maybe it was just a confusion, but I'm just saying, like, when I look at this picture, it doesn't really line up with what the testimony was. And all that to say, though, we don't typically get into the weeds of stormwater because that's not really our expertise. And the only time we really consider it is when we think about it as a factor of whether or not it's injurious to the neighboring property. And I think if we just go back, we've heard a lot of testimony, and I appreciate both sides and them presenting all this information, but I think if I drill this down in my mind, is this worth the variance? Is there a hardship? And I think that's the question. I think each of us has to answer that for themselves. Like, is there a hardship to justify it? I know that it's close, so Mr. Bradford, it sounds like it might be harder for you, but I guess where I am right now, I'm like, I don't know, feels like a self-imposed hardship. I feel sympathetic to them, but still feels self-imposed, and so I don't feel as inclined to give it, even though it is close. But I understand why you would, because I think that's also a reasonable interpretation.
I mean, I think my issue is that a distance that's the size of an iPhone is something that could be.
But inches matter in this world. Every inch matters. That's why we set these rules.
I agree.
Especially when you're building this close to people.
I've watched enough stuff. I've watched enough failed fourth down conversions in my life that inches do matter. So yeah, I mean, I'm.
But I understand your position. I don't want you to think I'm arguing.
No,
I understand it.
I don't like it, but I also, can understand the realities of a close distance being a thing that would be something that maybe is outside of a self-imposed issue.
Yeah, I think it's a construction mistake, and those happen, and that's not really self-imposed if it's a mistake, but is it really a hardship? This is really tough. The inches part is really tough.
My hang-up is injury to surrounding area, because from the testimony, although we cannot regulate which way water runs or not, but clearly demonstrating, water runoff possibly increased. But what I'm trying to determine is it caused by 6-inch or rather 7-inch difference? Or is it just a, nature of construction? That's what I'm trying to determine, understand. Perhaps it's a mistake, a huge mistake. But 7-inch closer caused the runoff, or just the nature of the construction itself caused the runoff. So that's what I'm kind of trying to, having really hard time determining it.
And I think of it as if they had to tear down that part of the house and rebuild it, that part of the injury is going to go on for the applicant. For the opposition, because that's more construction.
Well, and here's the other thing. I mean, I'm assuming that we had plenty of opportunity, that there are plenty of opportunities to catch this during the course of construction, and then all of a sudden, there's been sign off and sign off and sign off and sign off, and you have a fully built house, and all of a sudden, it's 7 inches too close. At some point, an inspection should catch that problem before it gets to the point where you have a fully built structure, and all of a sudden you have to tear down a side of a house to fix something that nobody knew was a problem until they got to the end. So, I mean, I have a hard time, a very hard time with, having this house have to get torn down or a side of it scraped off for what could basically amount to a rounding error. And one that inspectors could have caught at various points, be that stormwater, be that others.
I see a light on.
Yes, I just want to ask one last question to Joey. I think he mentioned it. So it's currently 4.3 feet from the property line. And then next to our house has some setback from the property line. So between the houses, wall to wall, is there 6 feet separation as fire department requires?
There should be, ma'am, based on the distance as shown on the survey from the newly constructed homes and then the information that we have. I apologize, I just don't have a shot. Well, hang on a minute, here we go. This survey actually shows the other owner's residence. Yeah, there's more than 6 feet between them. Because we're 4.3 at this corner, and then there's a distance from the property boundary. I'm sorry, let me put my pointer back on. Apparently PowerPoint won't let me zoom in and use the pointer at the same time. But as you notice, that property boundary, they're 4.3 to this structure, and then there is some equidistance to the opposition structure. So based off what I can see here, there should be 6 feet between those structures.
And I guess if there isn't 6 feet, the opposition can measure it and send you a photo with the measurement on it.
At that point, Ms. Karpanek, I will direct them to private legal counsel, the opposition. Yeah, I'm not
Send
going
it
to
to
get in a
legal
property
counsel.
line dispute between these two neighbors.
Right. Okay. Is there any attempts at motions?
I'll make a motion that we approve a variance for Unit B as built.
I'll second. Any discussion on the motion? Don't see any discussion. All in favor, raise their hand, say aye. So 3 in favor, all opposed, 1 opposed, so that motion fails.
Okay, this is a tie vote under your rules, so this motion will stay on the agenda for the next 30 days. We will have, let me double check my calendars. We will have another meeting, we'll have 2 meetings, but one of which will be in which we'll hear cases. So this will be back on our agenda April 3rd. The 3 members who did not participate in prior and today may catch up and participate should they wish to.
And we would need to, if we were here today, we would need to watch the February 6th.
Correct. Yes, sir. Just the February 6th. And I will, going forward, I'll endeavor in instances like this where members are out, as part of my email to you guys to say, hey, are you going to be here? I'll start posting links. So that way, that way you don't have to ask me for it. They're there. But you would have an opportunity, if you did wish to participate, you'd have to watch 2-6 to participate. At that 4-3 meeting, the members who participated today can change their votes. The members who did not participate can, as you saw, I'll poll them, and if they wish to participate, they can then vote. But the public hearing is closed. There will be no more testimony entered on this case. And that is it for this case.
I have a couple questions. Could I ask you?
Shoot, sir.
Are wall checks required when you building the property line in Davidson County?
The framing, our office does the framing inspection, and it's checked at that time. The foundations, in most instances, are done by engineer's letter, and the engineer, as part of their letter to us certifying compliance with the building code, is also supposed to be certifying compliance with the zoning regulations as well as setbacks. So.
But do you know if that requires them to come out, what I would call a wall check, they come out and they actually pin the wall to the property line?
I do not know that, sir. I don't.
All right. other question, will this case also have the 007 tag next time?
It will, yeah, it will not, we will not change, case number, so, now that Disney has bought them, we'll see if it's worth doing going forward. All right, members are, let's see, let me pull up our next case, should be case 2025-009, will be at the top of page 3. And while those parties depart, this case was heard at the February 6th agenda, was supposed to be heard 2:20, but due to snow, we pushed it back to today. This case deals with the subject property at 5047 Seymour Hollow Road. I'll poll you guys again, same as the last meeting. So just for the record, alphabetically, Mr. Cole, did you watch? And if so, do you wish to participate in this case? He does not. Mr. Pepper, same question to you. No. That's okay. And Mr. Ransom, likewise?
This goes back to the way I read it. I kept thinking they got deferred and
okay.
No, actually.
Yeah, no
so,
problem.
No,
And then for the 4 members remaining did participate in this case, public hearing in this case was closed. You need to reopen to allow additional testimony. You did ask the applicant to provide you some revised drawings. Those have been passed out to you. And bear with me one second while I get but I guess before I get into mine, do you wish to provide both sides an opportunity to address you? And unlike the other case where it was not closed, you actually did close it. I don't think you meant to, but you did. So we need a motion to reopen. And then if so, how much time are you going to give both entities?
Okay, any motions to reopen? Looking at you since you're like.
I'm the motion to reopen. I'm the 4-minute man or something. Yeah. I move that we reopen and allow each side 4 minutes.
Okay, second, any discussion? In favor? Okay, we'll give you 4 minutes and opposition 4 minutes.
Mr. Holland, before you begin, let me just recap for the board kind of what the photographs that everyone saw previously. The subject property is located on the north margin that you see of Seymour Hollow Road. That's the red shaded parcel in this map. These are the distances submitted by the appellant, showing the separation distances from the proposed kennel building and areas to adjoining neighbors. Then a view of the subject property on my visit on the 29th of January, and then a view of that structure that's proposed to be used, for the kennel. Opposition did submit additional information, and the appellants did as well, and you've been provided those. I did receive a video from opposition for the appellant. I got it today, so I apologize, did not able to, but I'll be happy to provide you guys with a copy. And that's it. That's everything I've got, and I'll reset the clock. And Mr. Tallman, I'll turn it over to you and your client.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Hargis. Jason Holloman, 4210 Park Avenue, here on behalf of the applicant. And I would like to reserve 2.5 minutes of the time for rebuttal. Primarily, I want to focus on the requirements for special exception for a kennel, 200 feet from the structure, any structure, and 100 feet from any of the runs. I think that's not in dispute. What we provided to you meets those requirements. There were questions last time about the nature of the structure to be constructed as part of this, and you can see a 2-page drawing that we have provided that shows the elevation of the runs, the fencing, the building, as well as a site plan that identifies the size of the structure, the kennels, and the type of fencing and the height of fencing for the entire area. All of them are significantly larger than what's required by the Metro Code, and certainly we plan to follow the operational requirements, such as feces removal. I will point out, we have actually an outside service that will come in and take care of that. And certainly we're happy to make that a condition of the permit if that's helpful to the BZA. So with that, I think that we have fulfilled the questions that were raised at the last hearing. Certainly happy to answer any questions.
Were there any conversations with the neighbors about the fence or anything else since the time of the last meeting?
There have not been any conversations. To be honest, my clients aren't comfortable engaging.
Okay, so what I'm reading on the drawing of the fence is that the fence is about
6 feet.
6 feet tall.
6 feet tall.
And I'm trying to read the dimensions. It's about 58 feet by 44 feet. Is that what I'm reading? Sorry, I didn't bring my reading glasses today.
In the back, it's 58, in the front, it's 57, because there's the gate in the front, and then, 44. So it's significantly larger than what's required. It's the entire side yard.
Okay. Any other questions?
Yes, thank you for providing the detailed plan. A question about the building. Kennel require adequate temperature, hot and cold, and it does not, I'm assuming it will be temperature controlled, so dogs will be comfortable in it, overheated or overcold?
Yes. Air conditioned, heated.
Doesn't appear there's any other questions, so you can come back.
Reserve the balance of our time. Thank you.
Mr. Holloman, that clock, I started just on the remainder, so you'll have 3 minutes of rebuttal. Okay, we'll hear from those parties in opposition. Again, a reminder to the opposition, as other cases, this is your only opportunity to speak to the board. You don't get a rebuttal of the rebuttal, so this is your one shot. I'm going to, do you have something for, I was able to download the video. Yes, sir. No, good shape on that, and I'll start that here in just a second. Okay, give that to Miss Jenkins right there, and she'll get you. All right, members, let me cue up the applicant did send over a video, and I'm gonna get that queued up for the gentleman to play. For him, so if you'll give me
Mr. Hargis,
just a moment. Oh, yes, sir.
if we only have 4 minutes, would you start the video at 5 minutes, the 5-minute mark, please?
At the 5 minute, oh.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
The video's longer
Sorry, it
than
took
that.
me a second. I was
Thank
like,
you, sir.
you don't have 5 minutes, but I know what you mean. Yes, sir. Give me 1 second, I'll get that queued up for you. No, stop.
Is the video what you wanted to start off with?
Ma'am, it's without sound, and so it could just run in the background.
You just want it to run, okay.
Yes, start at the 5-minute mark, sir, please.
Oh, that's easier said than done. Let me.
I think while he's doing that, you can go ahead and get started. He's almost there.
There you go.
Could you tell me when the video was taken?
Over the course, parts of it, over the past year.
There you are, sir.
And just to err on the safe side, if you all introduce yourself and give the address again once you speak again. Or you can go ahead and give yours now since you spoke.
My name is Zach Runquist, and I live at 5080 Seymour Hollow Road.
Okay, thank you.
I'm Cheryl Runquist. I live at 5131 Seymour Hollow Road.
My name is Stephen Alt. I'm an attorney here on behalf of Gary and Joyce Stenberg at 5043 Seymour Hollow Road, which is directly next door to the subject property.
I'm George Runquist. I'm from 5131 Seymour Hollow Road.
And why don't you go ahead, since the video is now running in the background?
So as I just said, my name is Stephen Nault. I'm here on behalf of Gary and Joyce Stenberg, who unfortunately couldn't be here today, but wanted to have their position known. I think that this case really comes down to what we have is an application for a special exception for the purposes of having a kennel. And really what it actually is, it's about trying to use the kennel provision of the code to try to introduce a high-risk police and military-style dog training facility in a community where families, children, and elderly residents live. And looking at the code alone, kennels are only allowed in this AR zoning. Here we're at AR2A. And it's only allowed by special exception, which I think should let us know that the code knows that this is a very sensitive area and, you know, it has to come before the board. And I think that the reason for that is specifically to avoid exactly this situation. The applicant is the owner of a business called Detect and Protect Canine Services, LLC. I watched the video of the last hearing. He specifically said that these are dogs that are out on contract and going to be temporarily stored at the home when they're not out on contract. To me, that is not a kennel. That is an animal boarding facility, which means any building or lands used, designated, or arranged for the temporary boarding, care, and grooming of domesticated dogs and cats for profit. Now, just because the kennel definition has training in there, I think that what the zoning code or the drafters of this, which one of the board members brought up how vague it is, and I agree, you know, training, I think the training that they were anticipating is training dogs not to bite. This business specifically trains dogs to bite. There are videos that are part of the video that's playing right here. That dog's jumping what clearly looks like a 6-foot wall. These fences will not contain these dogs. I'm not a dog training expert, but I think that police dog speaks for itself. It's highly controversial, has no place in a residential area. I think that I don't want to take all of the neighbors' time, but I think that this speaks for itself. It does not meet the criteria of a kennel.
What is this that we're looking at? Where'd you obtain this video from?
I didn't obtain a video.
These are videos taken from the neighbors' houses as well as off of the appellant's TikTok.
TikTok, okay, thanks. Does anyone else wish to speak, or are there any other questions?
So the clarification, those video was taken sometime last year. So have you seen any change or anything after the last our meeting?
Negative, ma'am. In fact, last night the dogs were running at large on the neighborhood road, as in the video, as seen in the video.
One of the videos was timestamped 2/4/25. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
That's when it was edited.
No, ma'am. That's when it was taken. All the timestamps are correct.
Going to ask a zoning question. This is coming to us as a kennel, and then the opposition is suggesting it should be something else, and I'll have to say I'm not following. It's for the zoning administrator. I'm not quite following it all. If you
Sure,
had any insight.
Well, I can tell you that, one, I'll agree with the applicant's counsel. We have 3 definitions that deal with dogs. There is some overlap in them. When the council adopted animal boarding facility as a land use, I attended those hearings in council. I think Ms. Johnson may have even been in the council at the time, but it was intended for boarding of animals likened to the Nashville Humane Society Association or the city's municipal, I'd say dog pound, but that's what I grew up calling it, for those types of instances. And kennel stood alone. Kennel / stable was in the zoning code previous to that land use. But when the council determined, I'll even submit that those definitions are very similar. But it was this practice of our department, both Mr. West and myself and prior zoning administrators, to apply kennels to private entities that would be either raising, boarding, or training dogs at the thing, and so at the subject property. So that's what we've used kennel for. In this particular instance, I will add, if these were just his animals only, and he was, I believe testimony previously was the training is going to occur elsewhere, and that he's bringing these clients' dogs to stay the night. I would like the applicant to address that, but let's just hypothetically, if these are just his German Shepherds, he would not be at this board at all, because there's nothing prohibiting the owner of a property from having their own dogs on premises. But where it crossed the threshold for me of sending it here to the zoning board was the original discussion about training and about boarding of animals that are not his. So that's why I went that direction versus animal boarding facility.
So essentially, the practice and policy of the department has been boarding is just sleeping there because your family's going out of town, versus kennel is boarding plus training plus more.
And I would put commas in there or as ors and not ands.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Just from that standpoint, to give you a little bit of historical background. Always, even in the prior code and in this code, we've always allowed veterinarians to board animals, with the assumption that these are animals being treated. But as everyone in this room knows, before the invention of doggy daycare, you took your dog to your veterinarian to keep it for you while you went to Disney World. So it was just inherent that we allowed veterinarians to do it. Not in the definition, but that's in practice. The invention of doggy daycares, we lump all of those into the kennel. You've seen those come to this board. We put those under the kennel/stable land use. I apologize, I'm trying to bring up the zoning code because I want to show you in the definitions. I wish Councilman Nash and Councilman Cash, who I thought were here earlier, I would love for this council to tackle doggy daycares and food trucks and some other items too. That the 1998
Can we request fences too?
Fences, the 1995 zoning code that started in 95 that we adopted is a bit out of date. We need to.
Anything for fences.
Yeah, and I apologize for the mouse. I don't have a second screen over here, so I'm having to use that giant screen in the middle as my screen. But let me go first to just for the board members, and I hope this helps you. I don't mean to talk about it if it's not germane or help you in this, but animal boarding facility is defined in the zoning code. There we go. Buildings or land used, designed and arranged for the temporary boarding and grooming of domesticated dogs and cats for profit. This use does not include an animal hospital. And then kennel, it adds to it the training aspect, the boarding. It's still, there's a lot of overlap in those definitions. But the difference in the initial applicant's discussion with me was for training as well. Oh, I did, sorry. My brain was thinking stable. There we go. So our definition talks about, and you could just tell sort of in the gist of it, it was created much earlier, but building structure, premises for boarding, breeding, training, caring for domestic animals and wildlife, excluding livestock. So in theory, this could be deer or quail or whatever, but such owners of the animals or persons providing facilities and care, whether for compensation or not, because that was an issue. It's an animal rescue. We don't charge. This covered those too. And, but also, doesn't include animals kept for pet stores or municipal pound or, so the reason for animal boarding facility, I tell you here, is because it says this shall not apply to the keeping of animals in a municipal pound. We didn't have anything for the, like Nashville Humane Society. It didn't fit in kennel and we just didn't have a hole. So when the council created animal boarding, that's to round out my summation. That's why they created it, was to fix that carve out.
Excellent dissertation, Counselor. Thank you.
It's
very helpful.
I object to my own long-windedness there.
No, thank you.
Very helpful. Thank you, Joey.
And you all have a minute and 27 seconds left. I know you all wanted to say something else.
Okay. I think that, if we look at the factors that should be considered for granting the special exception, I mean, the biggest one, harm to the public welfare, I think in this case speaks for itself. As we could clearly see in the video, these dogs can jump a 6-foot fence. And I think it's the type of situation where
if the code basically, if it were to allow him to have his dogs there as it is right now, this is all taken without having a facility like this there. So how would it change with the facility?
That's where I think we have to thank him for his honesty of what he plans to do with the property. And the other concerns that my client directly has as a neighbor right next door is that the 200 feet should be measured from his residence being the property line, not his domicile, not the dwelling house, that the residence is his entire property, not just the house. He specifically mentioned grandkids playing in the backyard, that, this is going to severely limit his ability to enjoy the outdoor spaces. One of the reasons he picked the home, and the facility that would be required to actually make this operation safe just don't belong in a residential area. His TikTok or, some of his services include off-the-leash training. As we can see, he's been doing it up and down the roads. But I think that this belongs in an indoor facility entirely. And the Metro Nashville Canine Unit uses the police academy. They don't use officers' backyards. And finally, I would like to present the letter from the council member, Joy Kimbrough. She is in opposition. She was originally supportive after looking more at the property, I believe a drive-by, for multiple reasons. She put in bold, I do not support the application and believe that supporting any endeavor involving these dogs.
Can you just put that into our record? You're out of time.
Oh,
we understand the
yeah.
message, if you don't mind.
If you could, we ask you to agree with her.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks. And Counselor, for the record, and we actually do have that email from Councilmember Kimbrough, the latest update. We have actually both.
Would I be able to see the copies that you brought? I missed it in the packet, sorry. Thank you. I'll just take one. There you go, thanks. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you. I just want to hit a couple of points. One, I think that the criteria related to kennel plainly refers to a structure. When it talks about residence, you can see when it refers to the structure of the owner, the residence of the owner, it refers to whether it's occupied or not, which to me clearly implies that it's meant to be the home itself and not the property line. And nowhere in the ordinance does it suggest property line. In terms of what Mr. Hargis said, I want to say I agree. My reading of the code, honestly, is that we don't need to be here. These are dogs that are owned by him, that are used in, frankly, also they're used in highly populated areas. These are highly trained dogs. They're in airports, they're at large events. They are designed to be around people, and I don't think I've seen any evidence that they're not well trained, that they're not obeying commands. But the local fire marshal requested that we seek this permit. So here we are. I think were this to be declined, I think we could take the position that we can do it anyways, and frankly, not with all of the fencing and structure, but we want to cooperate. We want to be, within any stretch of the compliance of the code. So that's why we're here. And I would also say that any of the issues related to dogs running at large, dogs escaping, they're still subject to all of the codes related to enforcement in the neighborhood, whether they have this facility or not. So if I don't think that's going to be a problem, but if it is a problem, it is still a situation that can be enforced. It's just completely separate from this request. So with that, I'll answer any questions.
The question I have is, on the video that was provided, it was training video, looks like. So if this kennel was built and a fence around it, those open air training will happen within your client's premises or on the street as the video currently shows? What's the difference?
There's no training that occurs on the street. I mean, he is walking his dogs, he's exercising, and I think we discussed last time, if you are within voice command, you don't have to be leashed. But obviously that's an issue that could be addressed off premise should it arise. And again, in the fenced-in area on the property, that's again really for exercising the dogs, not training the dogs. The substantial training will occur off-site, and they are generally supervised out in that area. I don't think there's a requirement that they be, but.
Mr. Qureshi, just so we're on the record, are your dogs trained to respond to your verbal commands?
Does he have to give his address?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Yeah, that was a good question. I don't recall if we got your name and address again. I'm sorry, if you don't mind.
Your name and address.
My name is Mohammed Qureshi. My address is 5047 Seymour Hollow Road, Whites Creek.
Okay, thank you. That's just all a formality we have to do.
Thank you.
Were there any other questions? Anything to add?
I'm Mark Hollings, 5057 Seymour Hollow Road, live directly next door. Of all of those videos that you saw, they're all obviously older. There was the new video where he was playing ball with the dogs in the yard with the concrete foundation. There's a house being built there, and I believe you have permission from Paul, the owner of the property, to throw the ball on that property also. So that's the only thing I saw in the video that wasn't previously viewed. And I didn't catch the attorney's name. The people that he's representing in the house next door on the other side, they live in California. They've been in the neighborhood, to the best of my knowledge, less than 14 days since before COVID. That's all I have to say.
Okay, anything else in the last couple seconds? Doesn't appear there's any other questions, so we'll close the public hearing. Thank you. Any discussion?
I think that the applicant has satisfied the factors for a special exception permit for this facility. And each one, I believe, has been met as required under the code. So I support the request for special exception.
discussion down there. No, I don't think that was a motion.
No, I'm not trying to, free and open debate here. Mr. Hargis, can we pause the videos?
Yeah, I'm having, these video are very disturbing, but I did ask our legal counsel about the leash law and everything. So the current leash law is, it's not positively said, hey, you can walk outside of your premises without the leash. It's not positively say that, but it says, restrained by owner or such animals accompanied by the owner, and the owner has physical control of the animal, it considers not at large. So, but this is, outside of our purview because we are talking about a particular property, and then the property which kennel will be constructed and fenced seems like meets condition to me. It fits a distance requirement, it meets a kennel requirement, it meets a fence requirement. So it is so unfortunate, and we cannot ask dog to behave well and not scare neighbors, but I think it's outside of our purview, and it seems like what is provided us meet current cause and special exception condition related to kennel.
I'll make a motion that we approve the special exception based upon satisfaction of the factors contained in 17.16.175 and 180.
Second it.
I'm just gonna add one thing, is I agree it's very difficult to watch videos and have concerned neighbors, and what I'm hoping is if this is approved, the dogs will have they have a nice play area, a really big fenced-in place, and there'll be some peace with all the neighbors. That's what we can only hope for, is peace for all the neighbors. So there was a motion, there was a second. So all in favor, say aye, raise your hand, aye. So there's 4 in favor, 0 against, so the motion passes.
Thank you.
Case 009 is approved on a vote of 4 and 0.
Thank you, Mr. Bradford, for your comments about fencing.
My life for a fence.
Since we got 4 more to go, what about we take a 5-minute break right now before we finish up here?
Okay, board stand in recess. Thank you. Okay, our next case will be case 2025-13, Evan Dunning, the appellant and property owner at 426 Rosebank Avenue. Mr. Dunning is requesting a variance in the height provisions in the R10 district to allow the construction of an addition to the existing detached garage. This was supposed to be heard on 2/20 and deferred today because of snow. Mr. Chairman, I polled the audience there. Everyone in the audience are appellants only, so there is no opposition for this case. I will get you the slides. As you all may or may not know, Nashville's parcel viewer is changing, so I've begun incorporating new maps into this PowerPoint, and you'll start seeing them in the future. But the subject property in question is the parcel. Normally in red, the new color looks like teal or green of some kind. I'm a 6-color Crayola guy, so, I'm not familiar with all these different colors, but, that color you see right there, which I believe to be teal. And you see on the drawing the existing garage located where my pointer is. The gentleman is requesting to raise the height of the garage. The maximum allowable garage height in this zone district is 16 feet, and it is measured from the peak of the structure here to the average grade plane height, which he's showing here is fairly flat. But not to bore you with the mathematical details, on lots that have topography involved, we take an average of the 4 corners of the home and develop a average grade plane, and we measure our heights from the grade plane. And then these are the elevations that the applicant submitted. They are proposing, he's proposing to go to 21.5 feet. And a view of the subject property on my visit March 3rd, just a few days back, looking at the subject property, and you see that the garage in question where the addition will be put on. And then a view of adjoining properties on the left-hand side. And then one thing I do want to make sure the applicant addresses on the record, this is not intended to be a dadu or have any sleeping quarters or full baths or anything like that. Okay, great. All right. With that, I'll turn it over to you, sir. There is no opposition. You'll have 5 minutes to present your case. And the clock will start once I find the room. After you announce yourself.
Evan Dunning, 426 Rosebank Avenue, requesting a variance from the height requirements of 16 feet to build to 21.5 feet. To describe my hardship, there's no other means to expand but vertically on my property. As you can see there in the visual, you're only allowed one building in the rear setback of your principal structure. I need a second floor to provide practical storage space and to be able to navigate in the building. I plan on using it for woodworking, recreational activity, and just general storage space. Live in a 1935 bungalow. If you're familiar with older homes in the area, they didn't really believe in closets back then, not a lot of storage space. So this is mostly going to be to expand, stay on the property, keep living in East Nashville. I have 2 kids, 1 on the way. This is mostly going to be used for storage space and recreation. And again, my hardship is really, I can only build vertically with all the other codes in play. Additional notes, the total elevation of my principal structure, my house is 554 feet. The garage is going to be sitting at 550.5 once all said and done, if you allow the 21.5 feet variance. So the principal structure would sit 3.5 feet higher than the building. If you can tell in the photo there, it's about a 2-foot decline in elevation from my house back to the garage. So this unit will sit lower than my principal structure physically if it was on a level playing field, and then now you get 2 feet less because of the topography.
And this is a renovation, right? You're just, okay.
Just raising it, that's all I'm doing. I'm not expanding the footprint. I have pictures of other units on the road, about not even a quarter of a mile, that have similar structures. So there's precedents in my neighborhood of structures like this existing. Those are likely dadus. Only one point I want to make is, the difference between a dadu and this, and dadus are allowed to be built to the height of the principal structure or less, is that dadus have plumbing, kitchenettes and whatnot. And the way I understand code, just to protect the welfare of the neighborhood and the safety in the neighborhood, I'm going to comply with all of those. I'm just not going to have plumbing in my unit. So I wouldn't even have to sit here today, if I'm reading the codes correctly, if it was built as a dadu, which doesn't have the same height restrictions as a detached accessory unit. That's pretty much all I have.
And I'm reading in our docket that you're zoned R10, not RS10.
I believe so, yeah.
Okay. So R10 allows a second structure?
Yeah, R10 allows dadus. The RS zoning does not without an overlay.
So the applicant could essentially build a dadu at the height of the principal structure?
Correct.
Because he's in R10 zoning.
Correct.
Okay.
Which I may go back and do later on, but just not in the plans right now. Don't want to add plumbing.
Just so I'm clear, Joey, if he added plumbing and said this was a dadu, he wouldn't be before us?
Dadus are required a full dwelling unit, so range, full bathroom. He'd be allowed to do that.
Right.
The only restriction really gets down between it and duplex is he can't sell it. Can't condo it.
And it has to be
owner occupied.
It has to be at the same height or lower than
or
the
less than the
right?
principal residence. Yes.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Any questions for the applicant? Okay, we'll close. Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Ransom has a question.
I have one. Well, first off, thanks to you and architect and engineer, whomever provided these elevations. They're incredibly helpful for us to judge. So thank you for that. One question out of curiosity, you're going 16 to 21 and a half feet. I can't, it's hard for me to tell with the second, that's to the peak of the roof essentially?
Yeah, it's from the front of the building to the ridge.
Okay. Any reason why the garage can't be like 9 feet in height as opposed to 10?
I mean, it could be like 20 and a half, still would have to request a variance from it though. I mean,
understand.
Yeah, 10 feet would just, if I'm woodworking, everything that I would be planning on doing, swinging planks around, 10 feet would absolutely help out with that. Also could use it for parking. I have a F-150, those are a little over 7 feet in height. You know, you put a automatic garage door opener in there, you're gonna need that extra space and clearance for that. It honestly just makes everything more practical, functional, easier.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Yep.
Any other questions for the applicant? Okay, we'll close the public hearing and discuss. Well, go ahead. Yeah, you go ahead.
I mean, there's one letter of support. There are dadus that are allowed. It actually goes down below grade a couple feet. I mean, he said 4 feet, but it does look like it goes down a little bit. So even though it's 21 or so feet in height, from the, compared to the house, it would play a little bit less. So I don't know. I don't necessarily have a problem with it. It seems to be a big push these days for these extra spaces because people are kind of locked into their homes. And
yeah, and I mean, I think that if a dadu could be built by right, that's this size. I mean, we're essentially, would be allowing it so that he doesn't have to put plumbing in a range and all of the sort of things that would be required in a dadu. And frankly, I mean, it'd be consistent with a lot of the board's actions where we've approved things and restricted the ability to put that stuff in there to make sure that it's not going to become some, clandestine short-term rental. So,
I have a question related to the dadu, and is the purpose of the dadus in these districts is just to, obviously when we get into more urban areas, is it to push density and larger, more units essentially? Is that
Yes, sir.
the purpose of it? Yeah.
Yes, sir. That's one of the principal goals of the dadu ordinance.
Well, I have no problem with it. And it's not taller than the higher structure. I'll just tell you, I'm struggling because he's allowed a dadu, but not this structure. And I mean, what's the hardship here? I think somebody's going to have to. It's a odd place to be. I mean, it's easy to say, well, if he can do a dadu, and I get that, but I guess mean, I think
I agree with
technically
you,
we
Mr.
still
Chairman.
need to have.
I've been sitting here thinking the same thing. And then also too, there's also precedent where we've had people appear before us who want garages and want variances and garages for storage space, and we don't allow them because they didn't meet the code and they didn't have a hardship. So, like, I understand that, oh, well, he's allowed to build that, and I agree, and it does make sense, but I did think, like, well, what's the hardship? I didn't hear one. I'm listening, though.
Yeah, I'm open. I mean, I'm just trying to think through what, I would be willing to stretch to find one if somebody can point one out. And I mean, I guess it takes some, if this variance is not granted, it's not like he can still build a dadu.
Correct.
And he can even go higher, I think, and he can put plumbing in it and everything else. So I don't think we're really depriving the applicant of anything. And I'm, if there's a hardship and I'm missing it, and I do sometimes miss them and people point them out, and
I think it's a good point. I think the reason they allow that is, you know, they're pushing people to do more units. So.
But if he build a do, he will lose the place for garage. He won't be able to park the car.
well, are you?
You can put a dadu on top of the garage.
On the second floor.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think the reality is that, you know, we have a code that's written in a way that is intended to, you know, allow by right structures that would be nearly identical to this, but for the existence of plumbing and a range requirement. You know, part of the nature, at least, of the factors that we're supposed to look at are, you know, physical characteristics of the property, unique characteristics. I think one thing that sometimes gets missed is, you know, would the imposition of the zoning code as written, you know, create some sort of hardship upon the owner? And I think that here there is something that would allow a structure almost the same as this on this property, and we're going to hang our approval or denial on, you know, a desire to not have plumbing and not have a range in it. And so, I mean, to me, I have a hard time getting to the place of denying it for that purpose alone.
I agree with you. If it was RS 10 zoning, I would have maybe trouble with approving it. But because he is allowed by right a second structure on the property, and like you said, he simply doesn't want to build the plumbing and the range and all. So.
I mean, he could knock this sucker down. He could knock this house down, sell this property to a developer and put 2 houses up on it.
So I think hardship is if we interpret the code as is, it will be harmful to the property owner or impractical. I would argue that will be the hardship, because considering the base zoning that was, you know, you already mentioned, so other structure is allowed, but nature of that code currently is written, and if we enforce as written, and he can only go as high as 16 feet, and which will be sometimes impractical, because if we want to have functional garage with functional attic and workspace and storage, average is 21.5 feet. So if we, you know, practically interpret existing code, that would be harmful to the property owner.
And I think taking into
That
account
would be
that this is
my argument.
that this is a renovation of an existing structure and not a demolition and not some new structure that's being built.
How is the interpretation getting to it being harmful though? I'm not making that connection. Like, why are we saying it's harmful?
Because essentially that by right, he could make he could build a structure that's bigger than this. He could knock this thing down, build a structure that's bigger.
But that's not what he's wanting to do. I mean, I
totally
get what you're saying.
But we're hanging it up here on plumbing and a range. And I mean.
But I don't view that we're hanging it up on plumbing and a range. I believe that my view is the code's hanging it up. And whether it's,
Right,
look, I
right.
have no problem with what he wants to do, but if I look at the code, he's not asking to build what he's allowed to build, and we're not imposing the plumbing or the range. It's just what's in the code, and I also, I just don't, I mean, to me, a hardship has to emanate from a unique circumstance about the land, the topography, the shape. I don't think it can come from a conflict with the code. Again, he's in an unenviable position. He can build something that's really probably bigger and has more amenities, but anyway.
I mean, we've given variances for different, all kinds of different things. I don't think we've necessarily applied this, in a manner. I think that we've used the unique characteristics provision of this code in a lot of different ways to allow different things. And so, I mean, I think that, maybe the code needs to be clarified as to how that provision sort of applies here. But I think that is something that we can weigh all these factors, and make a determination that the circumstances, the unique characteristics of this piece of property outweigh the others. So I think at our training we had last time, our wise counsel said, you weigh all you look at all the factors and sort of make a analysis of them, but one of them can be, more outstanding and carry more weight than the others. So, I don't think there's harm to public welfare. There's no harm to the integrity of the master development plan. I mean, frankly, if he's keeping a 1930s bungalow and renovating a garage behind it versus tearing it down and putting up 2 new structures, there's no injury to neighboring property. Financial gain is not the only basis. Arguably, the building a dadu would be, potentially more lucrative for a property owner here. It's not self-imposed. I mean, he's living in a house that was built in the 1930s. Yeah, so I don't know, physical characteristics, yeah, that's not going to be a factor that works out in his favor, but, I think that we do have some ability to consider kind of a number of things. And I think the unique characteristics here are something that we ought to take into account based upon how the dadu standard would potentially allow something that's bigger and more obtrusive.
Joey, that dadu, the code that allowed, or whatever you want to call it, that allows dadus in this area, the intent behind that, was that passed recently, a while back?
It passed in 2015.
I'm assuming the intent behind that was to allow more density.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. I mean, I'm on the fence, and I agree, it's not RS10, it's R10, and it's this weird kind of no man's land where by right he could build something, of this size, larger or smaller. I think the uphill run for me is really just kind of the intent of the code is meant to nudge clients that they want to have, or homeowners, to have these kind of secondary dwelling units. It's not like he's going 16 to 17, but it doesn't really matter. It's whether it's 1 foot or 5 feet, it's still, I know I'm talking a little bit in circles because I'm struggling on which way to go with this, but.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
Can we see the aerial again?
Sure.
So he had mentioned that he was constrained by how he can build horizontally on the site. I'm just trying to look and see what constraints there might be. Like, are there trees? There's something with a circle, and I don't know what that is.
Yeah,
behind the house.
Can you notice, I don't know if you noticed that faint purple line running north to south? That's Collector Street. So really, he's at the intersection of 2 Collector Streets. The setbacks over here, which is really a side yard, it's not governed by these homes, but it is double the required typical setback in RS10 of 10 feet. It'd be a 20-foot setback coming in.
Because of a Collector Street?
Because of the Collector Street standard, rather than the usual 10. If this were just let's say I was 1 block over, like right here, that's a local street. There would be not this, because the house is facing that street, but if he had the same thing on the one block over, he'd have a reduced setback here and have a larger build, but his setbacks are 20 off of this northern line and then another 20 coming in this direction.
So that might be a unique situation in this neighborhood, that this corner lot is cornered by two collector streets, while as in the rest of the neighborhood, potentially there might be a collector street and a local street. Perhaps.
That's for you guys to determine.
Yeah, we don't have that data. We wish we had that maybe data from the applicant. Because I think the hardship might be just the constrained site, but we're not able to see it right now.
Yeah. I mean, I can tell you, if it helps at all with your analysis, that the 16-foot restriction was done intentionally by the council when they adopted the code in 98. In your typical A-frame, 412 pitch, you're not getting enough space to put living area generally in that attic. And that was the reason for picking 16 versus 18 versus 20. It's less likely to get living quarters in these detached structures, and that was the intent.
So the height was basically designed to kill a residential.
Second floor apartments, yes. Now, yeah, that's 1998, or if you think about it, 1995, adopted in 96, went into effect in 98, and up until 2015, the public policy was we don't want people living in outbuildings, and now the DADU sort of creates, by code, the ability to match setbacks of an outbuilding. So you've seen codes where outbuildings of certain sizes get reduced setbacks to be closer to properties. So we allow that to occur, and then also to basically have a full house in that smaller space. But our first rule still remains, that hey, if you're doing this, you're limited to X, and if you're doing the other, well, you can have full living quarters at height equal to the home. But admittedly, we need to rework the code. But also to Chairman's point and Ms. Davis's point, that a code deficiency is not really hardship, but but also to Mr. Bradford's point, I think you guys can kind of weigh those factors together and figure out which way the scales tip.
That's helpful. Thank you, Joey.
Sure.
Any further discussion?
I think with that, because this particular garage is caught in two different set of regulation. One is old, limited of the height, because of the height was tied to the size of the property. And then nowadays we are planning, and plan has changed, increasing more density and so forth. So it seems like a too difficult exception. But if you read the Tennessee Code, Title 13 on our duty, it says one of the things we can apply for the variance is the strict application of any regulation enacted under this part result in a peculiar and exceptional practical difficulty to the property owner. So I think if we say, no, you can build the do much higher with plumbing and everything, but you may not remodel existing garage, that if we apply that, it will be kind of peculiar and hardship to the owner. So I think in my interpretation of this code, it will meet the variance. That would be my reason to accept the variance for this application.
It sounds like a state law that, would potentially be something our code, that's not stated in our code, but we have review standards. But what I'm wondering is if that's something that gives us sort of flexibility that you know, is beyond what's expressly stated in the code.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at 13.7.2073, and, you know, it's, I've always viewed it as it has to relate to the exceptional near and shallowness or shape of the property, and it's,
Or other extraordinary and exceptional situation or condition of such piece of property.
yeah, I mean, again, I think that the phrase of such piece of property, I've never, and I feel like the council, whether, you know, the code ought to be adjusted or not is, up to the council, and I just, you know, to me, a hardship, it doesn't necessarily have to be the shape of the property, but it has to relate to some characteristic of the property, and not just how there's a conflict in the code, and that's what I'm just not comfortable with. I mean,
Yeah.
that's the way I've always viewed it.
Well, I mean, I'll say, I don't mean to say that we have any authority to revise the code. I mean to say that if there's a state law that would, you know, our existence is authorized under state law, and that a state law would, you know, it with respect to grandfathering, it controls. And so, you know, I also think that Mr. Hargis made a point, or pointed out an issue with respect to the setbacks that potentially would constrain the ability for the applicant to expand this garage, you know, horizontally in some way.
Would be nice to see if they're, you know, see the setbacks on a site plan and see how the property was constrained, if it is indeed constrained by the fact that there's the two collector streets. We just don't have that in front of us, but that could be possibly an argument, but we just don't have that information.
Yeah, I mean, the other thing I'm struggling with is, you know, I think there's nothing wrong with what he's doing in my mind. If we were a board that just had full discretion, I'd say this is fine, but I'm also, I mean, I don't know how much more it's gonna cost to put plumbing in it and that kind of stuff, but, I mean, is it really a hardship to comply with the code to build something that has plumbing in it and a range and all that? I mean, is that, it's not a case in which if we deny this application, the applicant is out of luck and can't build anything that won't suit his needs. And I think, I'll just say, I think it's extremely close, and I'm really struggling with, I've always, you know, what's the interpretation to me of Tennessee Code 13.7.2073, C, lower Roman numeral K, lowercase Roman numeral 2, other extraordinary and exceptional situation or condition of such piece of property. I've just always viewed it as it has to relate to the property and not just any situation. But if our legal counsel is aware of any law on that, that's the way I've always.
Yeah, I don't think, in the last time we checked, and I'll be transparent that I haven't checked to see if there's any case law that's been put out since the last time, but there is no case law that interprets that particular section that you're citing to. But I do believe that we've interpreted that to be a higher standard. Is that right, Joey? Than the other, and now again, I'm talking historically, and I've only been advising, I guess, this group for a couple years, but the historic way that we've viewed that section has been that that's even more of a higher bar than the other
Right.
enumerated hardships that you mentioned before. And again, that is the context that I've taken by speaking to other people that have advised the board and members of the community with respect to that section. There's no case law to my knowledge. Joey, has there been any
I'm not
case-
aware.
So I
I'm
mean,
not
there's
aware
there's
of
really
any
no, there's not like there's no basis for the position that it's a higher, it should be
I'm
subjected
not
to
sure
a
how we
higher.
got there, and I, I don't want to, and so for what it's worth, you can just disregard that piece and take it the way that you read it, and the board's free to, I'm not here to
Sure, yeah,
to parse those hairs for you. And so just recall, or just remember that if this case were to go on appeal, what they're looking at is, are you arbitrary and capricious? And as long as your decision is grounded in the law and you make the record clear, then, the court's not going to substitute its judgment for how you viewed this case to fit within the law.
Okay, thank you, I appreciate that, that's all.
Appreciate it.
Well, anybody have a motion for this very close case? Which
I'll make
we're
a
all- Go ahead.
I'll make a motion that we approve the variance request based upon both the existence of an extraordinary and exceptional situation under TCA 137207, Part 3, in addition to the applicability of the collector street setback requirements constraining the ability for a horizontal expansion of the garage.
Okay, there's a motion, is there a second?
I'll second.
Motion and a second, any further discussion? All in favor, say aye. Okay, that passes, all against. Okay, that passes 4-3.
Okay, that case is granted on a vote of 4-3. The next case will be case 2025-14. And that is Mr. Matthew Jones, the appellant owns their property at 1885 Loney Drive. Mr. Jones is requesting, let me get, whoa, what did I do here? Here we go, getting to the ranks. All right, well, this one, all right, there we go. Okay, yeah, 1885 Loney Drive. The subject property is the parcel with the red pin in the center there. Interesting to note, before this gentleman came to see me, we pull, what we do is pull the plats for the proposed, any proposed addition to a house and say, okay, well, here's your setbacks. And we discover on the plat that this gentleman's house, as well as his neighbors and most people in the neighborhood, built in violation of the plat setbacks. And that's what this drawing shows you, is that old line that runs through each of the homes out there. So in addition to you guys, he's going to have to amend his plat if you are willing to grant him a variance. So I don't know how it happened. These homes were all built contemporaneously about the same time, but they were built clearly wrong. So it's only coming to you today as a variance for essentially a 3-foot variance, if you will. I didn't want the 75 feet or the 55 feet. I have 55, I meant 75, I mean 55. I don't want that to skew your thought as though this gentleman's requesting a 19-foot variance. It's just 3 feet. The average street setback on his block, which consists of just these 3 homes, because the 2 lots on the corner face the corners, so his block face is essentially just these 3 homes. But that average turns out to be 37 feet. The existing porch sits at 34. The way I understand it, and please correct me when your time comes, I think the gentleman was covering this porch. The porch existed. He may have extended it a couple feet close to the road and then put this cover that you see here over it. We issued a stop work notice and sent him in for a permit. That's when we discovered all the plat stuff and like, whoa, wait a minute. So he needs a variance again of 3 feet from 37, which would be the average, down to 34.1. His proposal in that, if I recall, is not just this covered porch, or I'll let you talk during your time, but I think he's going to have some additional renovation to the home that may be occurring, or additions there too, but. Oh, this is it, okay, all right. The covered front porch is all, I may be confusing you with another case. But the council kind of, all right, so we got the plat, the houses got built where the plat line says they shouldn't be, and this gentleman covered, slightly extended the porch by a couple feet and covered it. What is, let me ask you if you don't mind, on the record, if you can answer, what is I did not come up on the porch. I'm a bit careful of stepping onto private property anymore based on our good classes that Metro Legal taught us. If this were 1990, I would have rolled into your backyard and looked, but don't do that anymore. But so how deep is the covered porch? Is it 6 feet, 8 feet?
It's a little less than 2 feet bigger than what it was.
What is it total today? It's now 8, okay. So, and the reason I wanted to ask the applicant, the council recently amended the code. You guys remember you used to have all these covered front porches come to you. Okay, so they amended the code to say, hey, you get a covered front porch as long as it's not more than 6 feet off the building wall and it stays open aired like this fella's doing. So, because he's 8 feet, I can't consider it allowable encroachment into the front setback. So I have to send him to the variance. So if you really want to split hairs, we're talking about 3 feet between the average and the other. And honestly, we're only talking about a foot because he gets to do 6 feet on top of the 37, by right. So anyway. It's only technically 2 feet that what he put on, the extra push out of the front porch. If he had left the existing porch and covered it, all he would need would be the platted setback amendment, because that encroachment of the now covered front porch is allowed where it didn't used to be. It's that 2 foot push out, and the covering is what's sending him to the board, is for that little 2 foot add-on that he did. Now, that's probably not something he would be aware of, but just a quirk that occurs here.
So really, it's just a 2 foot variance.
Yeah, it is. The numbers bear out 3, but truthfully, it's only 2 feet. It's because he's allowed 6 foot encroachment.
He could have covered what he had.
Yes, he could have covered what he had.
Okay.
Yes, so thank you. That's a lot easier than what I was trying to say. This is the home to the right. Very similar, covered front porch, a little bit side loaded. The front porch comes out. That's kind of the Dutch barn framing on the left side. And then this is the adjoining property on the right. All these homes were built kind of with a covered stoop, or a stoop off the front porch, like this home is to the left. But, and to be fair, the gentleman on the left here can probably cover his area if he wants to by right. So, hope that helps. Hope I didn't muddy it up. But I did get asked, what are we going to do with those other 2 houses? We're not going to do anything until they want to put an addition. Then we'll make them go fix the error from 1950 that occurred. So. Turn it over to you. You'll have 5 minutes to talk, should you wish.
Yeah, so Matthew Jones, 1885 Loney Drive. He explained the circumstances pretty well, I believe. I did just want to point out the house on the picture, if you're looking at the picture to the right, the right side of that house is an addition that was approved by the BZA, to my knowledge, giving them variance so they could build out towards the road. So that was approved. And then I thought I could get this approved without coming here before you, so I reached out to all the adjacent neighbors and got their approvals. None of them had a problem with it. And then as the BZA recommended, I reached out to the district council member, Jenny Welsh, and she wrote a letter with her approval of the project there. I didn't really know anything about setbacks in doing this at all,
and that's when I found out that the house was built in the middle of the setback line. I think that's about all I have.
And so the porch was already there, you just covered it?
Yeah, there was an existing porch there, it was much smaller. And
You
it
pushed
was
it out 2
probably
feet?
yeah, we actually took it out and put one that was just a little bit bigger. It was just a last minute decision there. We're here, you want to make it this big, it makes more sense, and that's what we did.
Okay. Questions?
Did you get and maybe I'm catching up a little bit, did you get a permit for this work or anything?
That's what, I didn't realize I needed a permit because there was an existing porch there. When I found out, they put a stop work on the project. When I found that out, is when we found out about the setback lines. But at that point, it was already done because it was like a one-day project.
Okay, thanks.
So how did this come to?
I don't know. Let me just double check. Two ways these generally come: by complaint, or the building inspector happens to be visiting another site and, whoa, what's this? I can tell you that. Give me 1 second.
I mean, so a follow-up question for the applicant. Still
Sure,
open, right?
yeah, we haven't closed the public hearing.
Have you retroactively obtained a permit, inspections, anything, to rectify that?
What we did do, we did some other work. We put some siding on the house and replaced a window. We did a building permit for that, but that's already been approved. The building inspector came out, he already saw the porch, pointed out a couple things that have been done already. At his request, he said it needed to be done. But that's where it's at.
So to clarify your comment, you haven't obtained any building permits specific for the porch or had done any inspect. The reason I ask is
I did try to. I have a number, but it hasn't been approved, I guess.
Right. Extending the porch, you have footers, you have a roof structure, snow load, and other types of things, and implication structural stuff. It's not just kind of like a shed.
Right.
So the fact that it was built out of permit or inspected, and I know you're kind of in between here, that's just kind of my general worry. The reason they have a 6 foot front porch versus kind of what this is more of a front living room area. What size is it? 8 by 18, I think. Yeah. You pulling it up, Joey?
Yeah, sorry, I was pulling up how did we come across this?
How is this not a legally non-conforming or an extension of a legally non-conforming structure? Because it was, if it was built on top of the setback as existed.
Yeah. The reason being is the additional 2 feet triggered that. Because he's increasing the degree of non-conforming. He's coming closer to the front setback. That's what triggered him needing to come here.
Okay. And does it matter if you made the porch wider too?
The width, no, we're generally okay. As part of that bill, we allowed them you could run it the width of the house, because that setback line's already established with the porch. We'd let you run it the house as long as you don't enclose it. If you did wish to enclose any portions of it, we'll apply the full setback and do so. For some reason, I cannot get to this this field right here that I can't see. I would guess, based on the applicant's testimony, the building inspector, when he came out to look at the other work, like, oh, where's your permit for this? And he applied for it, and that's when we kind of discovered all the other stuff. Because the other work was all interior, there wasn't. We would have never looked at the plat then and kind of figure out all this. So the bad part for him, even if successful here, he gets to pay a sizable amount of money to pay the planning commission to move the line. That some builder in 1950 did not do him a favor. Yeah, I'm sorry, I can't quite get to that, but that's my gut feeling.
Any more questions for the applicant? Okay, well, thank you, sir. We'll close the public hearing and discuss.
I consider myself, I would love every house to have a front porch, right? So I'm all for that for a variety of reasons. It just went from a 5x6 stoop to an 8x18 porch, or really beyond that, so, but I mean, I guess we're sticking at, really it's just asking for 2 feet of variance. And that's not necessarily with this, is that with the stoop as well, or just the covered structure?
Just the covered portion. Yes,
Just
sir.
covered portion.
Uncovered stoops were always allowed in the setback.
In the setbacks, right?
Yes, sir. And only, before y'all get to the motion phase, if you're inclined to approve it, the only condition we ask that you just include that it may not be enclosed in the future. So to match the new law that's passed.
Right. I mean, I don't know, I always have bad taste in my mouth when people come before us and didn't know they needed to obtain a building permit when building. So it's kind of hard to step back from that a little bit.
Yeah, I wasn't sure of the hardship either. I mean,
Well-
it's a small ask, but.
And Joey, the question I have is, a non-conforming structure may be enlarged, provided there is no increase in the degree of non-conformity. Isn't an enlargement an increase in the degree of non-conformity?
It is, and that's why it's before you,
Was it,
But
but
the
was
stru-
it
but-
non-conforming?
but the
I mean, it wasn't really non-conforming because it was an open stoop, right?
Well, it was non-conforming because it was in the setback. It was
well, the
inside.
whll house is non-conforming
Yeah,
because it's
right,
over
right.
a platted line.
So
That's
it's-
the non-conforming portion. The stoop would have been allowed. So to answer your question, Mr. Bradford, his increase in the degree of non-conformity is the 2 additional feet.
Yeah, but the way the code's written, it says it may be enlarged, provided there is no increase in the degree of nonconformity.
Correct. So the width, no problem, because we're not coming in closer to the road.
Right.
So my first question is, what's the non-conformity? The street setback?
It's the end of the setback, okay.
Yeah.
So are we applying a variance standard?
You
here,
are.
or any-
Yes, sir. It's a variant standard here.
I wish the councilwoman, when they made this, it's a 6-foot extension for a porch. It's really like more of a stoop at 6 feet. To get to a porch with actual usable space, you kind of need to go to 8 feet. Otherwise you're maybe a couple chairs and that's about it. It's not really I guess you can get into semantics, but.
Well, it's, I'm looking for the hardship too. Is it a unique feature of this property and the adjoining properties that they're all built, over the, they're all built over the setback line to begin with. This owner had nowhere to go.
Yeah,
Isn't that?
the adjoining where the adjoining structure's porch ends is at 33 feet. And so this would be further back. So if the whole block were to be replatted, to where the as-builts are, this still wouldn't be the closest of all those lots.
Which is why, Mr. Bradford, we asked the planning department to not put minimum building setback lines on plats any longer for the past 20 years.
Excellent.
Thoughts? I've given you all the thoughts I have.
I would just make the argument that the mistake on the plat, due to no error of the homeowner, sort of created a unique characteristic of this property, and not just his property, but the entire block face. It's not just him, so it's not like, so with that, and given that, it's a 2-foot variance based off of the existing, as Joey pointed out, that we have already created a code to sort of allow this. I would say the way I looked at it, I would say his hardship is that the plat was wrong and that he wasn't aware of, and that's the hardship. And as a result, I'll give him a minimal variance. That's my motion.
Okay,
I've had no
I was
coffee.
hoping you were winding that up with a motion. So
Just
I'll
basically
second
a motion of the as-built to the, as-built.
Yes, as built, and that it may not, and with the condition that it may not be enclosed in the future.
Second.
And can we add one more condition, maybe by right, but just make sure that it gets inspected at a building permit?
Yes, sir. For the gentleman did, he's applied for the permit. It's just awaiting,
Yeah, they're
this
just
board's
awaiting
action.
us.
Okay, motion, second, any further discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? Okay, that passes. Next case.
Okay, that, next case before us is, bottom page 5, 2025-19. Mr. Philip Marcetta, the appellant, Misty Meadows Properties LLC owner of the property at 1104 McFerrin Avenue, requesting a variance in street setback and rear setback requirements in RS5. The appellant seeking to construct a single-family residence. All right, the subject property. Come on in. What am I doing here? Let's see. Here we go. The subject property is this odd-shaped lot on the northwest margin of McFerrin, just west of Ellington Parkway. I'll come back to that in just a second. There are actually, I didn't want to, I kind of confused you, I think, with this site plan. The only part of this plan that matters is this is our structure that's coming to the board. And he's requesting a 10-foot rear setback, which is this line, 10 feet off this line, and approximately a 10-foot setback from this corner, perpendicular to the right-of-way line here. The house itself is going to face toward the intersection down at McFerrin and Granada. On that site plan, that larger home that you saw is that Lot 5 tract there. So we're only talking about Lot 4, which is this purple portion. I should have cropped that one out, but so this is the structure that we're talking about. There is also a portion of Lot 3 left over, this triangle piece, that quite frankly is not buildable, but is a legal lot. And the reason for the odd-shaped lot was when they built Ellington Parkway, they took right-of-way. They moved, I believe they moved McFerrin west, took right-of-way there. So that's why you've got these odd-shaped lots up in here. But it is a buildable lot, even though it is insufficient to lot area. It is a legal conforming lot because it was legally created prior to the government's actions of taking of the portion of the right-of-way. So again, this is the home where my cursor's moving in. 10-foot rear setback there, 10-foot street setback. These dimensions are a little bit off because they're not perpendicular with the road, but we did get a dimension from there on a 9-degree angle. This is looking into that subject property. Again, idea that Lot 3 is kind of sitting in here. Lot 4 is here. It includes a large chunk of this, and then Lot 5 back here coming down. And then a view toward the intersection. And I believe this lot as well, there's a stormwater feature, is that correct, Mr.?
It's a wet weather conveyance.
It is a what, sir?
After speaking with Metro Stormwater, we got it reclassified to a wet weather conveyance. So
Oh, wet weather conveyance, okay.
It does not hold any water.
Gotcha. All right, that's the case records we have it, sir. If you would please identify yourself. You have 5 minutes to present.
Name is Philip Marcetta, 1000 Steinbeck Avenue, Nashville, Tennessee, 37207. I'm in front of the board today to ask for a setback variance in order to create a single-family house. The hardship, as Mr. Hargis described accurately, is created by part of the lot being cut off when the state constructed Ellington Parkway, and combined with a 40-foot setback for McFerrin, which is, according to the Metro Major and Collector Avenue street plan, considered a Collector Avenue. basically renders this lot unbuildable without a setback variance. And this specific part of McFerrin Avenue is the tail end of McFerrin Avenue, and even though it is considered a collector avenue, it, thanks to Ellington Parkway, it does not have the usual characteristics of a collector avenue. There's very little traffic. Most people get on the highway north of this very section. So it's just not a collector avenue in the traditional sense where a lot of cars pass. And like I said, it's not a lot of traffic, and we're trying to build a single family house with the smallest possible footprint that would allow for a normal looking house. And that's why we're asking for the variances we're asking for.
Thank you. Any questions for the applicant? Okay, well, no questions. So we'll close the public hearing and discuss it. Let me say, I would have put this on consent, but I was struggling this morning with accessing the package, and I could not get to the site plan. And the same thing with the next case we're hearing. So I just throw that out there to tell everybody.
I can't try to keep track of the weirdest looking lots that we've ever had.
No,
this is up there.
I don't think it's the weirdest.
But it's not the weirdest, but it's close.
The one in North Nashville where 65 came through it.
Oh yeah, that was super weird. I'm also curious.
Full disclosure, I live close by. I drive down. I pass this lot several times a week, so I'm super familiar with the lot. He is correct. It is not a typical collector street because Ellington is right here, so all of the houses are just on one side of the street. It feels more like a dead end. I just use it as a cut through to get to my mom's house. So I will say that I think Mr. Bradford has already indicated, I think this is the cookie cutter definition of an irregularly shaped lot with a hardship that wasn't self-imposed, that it was created due to Ellington Parkway being built and then the setbacks being applied to it, even though those aren't really applicable to this part of the street. So I'm supportive. I'm willing to make a motion that we approve the variance as presented due to the hardship of the irregular shaped lot due to Ellington Parkway and the unusual nature of the setbacks being applied to this street.
Second.
All in favor? Any opposed? Okay, that passed.
I want to know who owns lot 3.
It's
maybe they'll give it. Maybe they'll
the
give it to the applicant.
Yeah, the city owns it back.
That
yes, sir.
Interesting.
Yeah. All right. The last case on our agenda today. High value real estate. Y'all laugh. There used to be a gentleman when I worked in the planning commission that used to buy all those little tiny back tax parcels, and he had literally hundreds of them. None of them were buildable, but they were just like owning them.
I put a statute on it or something.
I don't. All right, our final case, case 2025-21. Jordan Miller is the appellant, AL Development, owner of the property located at 2105 Greenwood Avenue. This is an item D, so it's an addition to a non-conforming structure in the CL UZO zone districts. Just a reminder, item D appeals are you determine whether this proposed change is appropriate. That is your, and the applicant seeking to construct addition to the non-conforming building. This is the subject property, that triangular shaped lot on Greenwood. If you're familiar with Greenwood, coming off of Porter, you turn right on Greenwood and go over the railroad tracks. Over that bridge, over the railroad tracks, this is the last lot on your left before you cross the bridge. You'll see it in the photographs, but I'll let the applicant talk about their proposal for on the second level of this structure here, the CSX rail line that crosses Porter's here, and then you sort of take that bridge off of Porter and cross over where my car's sitting. But I'll leave this up. The applicant did submit an elevation. I will get that pulled up for you, sir, if you'd like me to. And then with that, I'll turn it over to you guys.
I'm Manley Seal with Powell, architect.
Can you give us your address too, please, sir, for the record?
Yeah, the address of our company is
2813
Bransford Avenue. It's Nashville, Tennessee, 37204. We just moved there. I had to remember the zip code. And I actually live at 900 Riverside Drive in East Nashville, 37206, so just around the corner from this property.
Stuart Dorn with Powell. Address is 2813 Bransford Avenue. And then we're also here representing the owner, and then this parcel is 2105 Greenwood Avenue.
Okay, so yeah, so we're here seeking, because we have an existing non-conforming building, we're doing a renovation of the interior to build that out as a bar, which the applicant also operates Shulman's, which is right next door on the corner of Greenwood and Porter. And then we're doing a rooftop addition that is partially covered and mostly open, as you can kind of saw in that.
Right, that rendering or the perspective shows the setback from the street.
There you go.
Which it's not required, but that's just how the design came about.
Is this on the roof?
Yeah.
That's on the roof, yeah.
Yeah, so this would be the new rooftop addition with the two forms of egress. It's approximately 15 feet setback from the existing parameters.
Yeah, so I think the note here is that the covered portion is within the proper setback. So just the railing across the patio would be in the setback, or the non-conforming.
Right, so it's an extension of what is there currently, just staying with that datum line.
And I think that's,
Yeah, and then we also have just the second story, so I guess the rear setback as well is on the variance, but that's just an extension of the existing footprint.
So this is the spot on the backside of Shulman's?
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah, okay. Full disclosure, I should probably disclose I'm a patron of Shulman's.
Okay, yeah.
So.
Joey, can you go to that? I'm just trying to get my bearings. I'm sure you guys kind of know where everything is located on here. But it'd be helpful to have some toggling back between plan and plan. But, I see the railroad line, and there's basically a roof deck on top of what's already there.
Correct.
Is there any extension of a footprint beyond current footprint there?
the only on the side there, so where you see the four top patios there, that is a extension of a ground floor patio, and then it is covered as well. So
It's a covered patio below, and then above does not have a roof structure. So essentially, it's an extension of, it wouldn't be a parapet, but a continuation of that front elevation is where the railing of the upper rooftop is.
Yeah, but that's the only extension of the building, which is an uncovered patio above and covered patio below.
Okay, so it would be almost, you'd extend out over above, open patio above, covered patio below. And then what about the front existing awnings that are there? And where does this railing go above? It basically goes where this.
The railing goes in line with that wall right there, yeah.
And then what are you looking at where his mouse is right there from the street? Is that just an open patio or is that a wall?
That is, there's a low wall.
So it also, it steps down with the topography. So we're at, see, it's probably 3 feet down. So it's on line with Greenwood, and then it's open, but there is just more or less just a separation wall to enclose that patio while you're sitting.
Okay. Joey, you mind pulling up those photos you had a second ago? Just trying to get a lay of the land.
Yeah, the driveway there, that's why you see the new retaining wall, it sort of dips down into there, and that's also where we have to put, whether we do the rooftop or not, we have to sprinkle this building in order to make it a bar inside, so the backflow preventer has to go into that corner.
What's the current, what is the brick building being used for currently?
It's vacant right now.
Okay. Was it an office space or something previously?
Okay. Corn shell was built to be an office space.
Okay.
And I think prior to that, it might have been like a salon, because there was a bunch of like, looked like a line of wet walls. I mean, would have been stations, hair stations, but.
And one question, what does that red line on that plan represent?
Could you go back to it?
I think that is the setback line.
Yeah. And so the red lines are just showing that where the building sits is non-conforming to the setbacks.
Yeah.
That's what I thought, just, okay.
And so, yeah, and then so basically, and the area behind it is the former Franz location, is that?
Correct,
okay.
yeah, that's right, yeah,
All right.
yeah.
And that, I'm seeing that wall that's noted in the kind of rendering sits above the foundation wall, doesn't come all the way out to the awning wall, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
Okay, any further questions for the applicants? All right, thank you, gentlemen. We'll close the public hearing and discuss. And again, Ms. Hargis, the standard for an item D is it appropriate?
Yes, sir, that's correct.
Okay.
Well, I don't think the fact that the railing is the only thing that's in the non-conforming part of the property makes it more non-conforming. The bulk of the rooftop bar, I guess it is within the setbacks, so.
Yeah.
And by the way, thank you for giving us something nice to look at today. We don't often get nice renderings, so thank you.
Also nice design.
Yes,
Yeah,
and that too, yes.
And I think, I don't know what does the code say what appropriate means? Well, I would say that the intersection of Porter and Greenwood, this appears to be consistent with the look, feel, and use of a lot of the structures in that, which includes a toy store and skate shop across the street, that there have been more restaurants added to this intersection.
And they're even closer on the other side of the street.
Yeah.
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 Like much closer.
I will make a motion that we approve the application based upon finding that the addition is appropriate.
Second.
All right, there's a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? Okay, that passes. Thank you.
Case is approved on vote of 6-0. That adjourns the board meeting for today. Members, just a reminder, our next meeting is a public meeting, so the public is invited to attend. It is not a public hearing. We'll be discussing our rules of procedure at the March 20th. March 20th. It'll be in this room, same time.
Do you have any idea how long that's going to take?
That's totally up to you guys. So.
So that'll be, whoever lost their fantasy football league last season will have to come listen to that meeting.
No, it will be a review, and I will send over to you guys both clean copies and red lines of our current rules and our proposed rules.
If we have proposed changes, should we
discuss them? You're welcome to send them to me.
Should we send them to you and then discuss?
Send them to me,
Yeah, of
and we'll
course,
discuss
them in the
yes.
meeting. But that way, if
I saw that red line, rules changes.
Yes.
Is there going to be like another amendment to that?
This has been a service of the Metro Nashville Network. If you would like to see this presentation again, or for more information on this and other programs, visit nashville.gov.